Jack Pine.
Hello and welcome to the Saladcast on Monday the 4th of May 2015. I'm your host Dan Train. Joining me today, Zachary Burgess.
Wait, that's Robert.
And Robert Kemp.
Wait.
Got to reverse it.
Wait. The two sides of wait.
It's like one of those tubes going in and out. The way. Oh, it's the other way around. It makes a different sound on the way out, though, doesn't it?
Yeah, it's more of a.
It's not just the same waveform.
It's the sound of extreme apathy, not just apathy, which is basically, but extreme apathy, where it's like.
So you have extreme apathy, really.
I'm really vocal about my apathy.
So one direction is just apathy, and then the other direction is extreme.
It's like
apathy.
I need to tell the world how much I don't care. It's like I care about my not caring.
It's like you're putting too much effort into the expression of apathy. It doesn't seem to fit.
Sarcastic apathy.
I see.
Well, how can? Well, is there a word for someone that literally doesn't care what their viewpoint is, but cares very much that the world needs to know that they don't care? Because that is extreme apathy, right? Or some kind of
apoplectic apathy.
That would be the same at all.
What would that be?
Just apathy again, isn't it?
Is it?
Does everything equate to just apathy in this line of thought? In which case, extreme apathy is totally just apathy.
So there's no point in making a distinction.
Yeah, that's possibly true. It's like you can't apply any modifiers to it because by the very definition, it is nothing, basically. And you multiply by 0, so you get 0.
I suppose it's like someone going into this is a particle political podcast.
Particle political.
Particle political broadcast.
It's a political broadcast from the Apathy Party, where it's just like we needed to broadcast this to everyone in the nation, but we just don't care. That's extreme apathy right there.
Well, at least
if they didn't care, they wouldn't make it though.
Exactly, we can't
do that.
We care about everyone knowing that we don't care.
The only way that would work is if it was forced upon them. Where it's just like, you have to make this broadcast, and then they're just like, fuck. And then it just ends.
I would watch that broadcast.
Well, yes, because it'd be over in about 3 seconds.
Have you watched any of the non-apathetic party political broadcasts? Because I imagine there've been some. I don't watch TV, so I haven't caught any.
I have watched them indirectly via Gogglebox.
Okay.
Oh, okay. And what were the reactions?
Pretty dumb. In fact, most of them are pretty dumb, in fairness.
Yeah. Why can't they make them slick and good or whatever? Surely they have budget and people who care.
Noam and I were talking about this the other day. Now, we think the media has really screwed this election up because no one at any point in this process has talked about policy. At any point, it's just all been like, oh, hey, have you seen that Farage chat? He's smoking again. How about that? Or it's really important that he wins this seat in his hometown, otherwise he's going to leave UKIP. It's I don't care, actually. What are they, if they got in power, what would they
Well,
do
yeah, that's
for
what
us?
you want to know, right? But, I mean, I saw a little survey thing
about
that said that the BBC News or the website, I don't know if it was just the website or BBC News in general, was showing the policies much better than the other parts of the media.
It was
have they did a research on it.
Well, I think I saw that on the BBC website.
Do you see that?
It was basically, they did a dumb thing where they choose your own policy, where it had, for each of the individual parts, like health and schools or whatever, it had all of the policies, and you could pick which one you wanted.
Vote for policies has been doing that for every election, forever.
Yeah, that was a lot more in-depth, isn't it?
Yeah.
It was dumb. Also, because the time when I looked at it, which was basically as soon as the BBC put it up, half of them weren't actually there. It was just we haven't yet received what this policy is from the party. We asked them, but they haven't told us yet, so I guess it's just blank space for now.
But instead, they're like focusing on, oh, hey, Labour's not going to do a deal with SNP, and these guys don't like these guys, and Ed Miliband can't walk off a stage without stumbling off the tip of.
That's because it's more like human interest than the actual policies, which are quite like on paper things.
It's
like, I'll give the BBC they were. I didn't see any of it, but they were advertising, at least on Radio 1, that they were going to do these shows where they were going to actually focus on policy and try and explain what the hell's going on.
Yeah, because it's not very obvious
for the young people.
Well, I think the trouble with the policy situation is that it's barely going to matter in the end anyway, because no one is going to get the majority, so they're all going to have to make deals, and then none of the policies will actually happen. It will just be another nothing happening sort of years of just waiting to see.
Probably less happening than there has been.
And you know what I'm extremely apathetic about?
Politics.
Yeah.
Well, why the fuck are we talking about it?
You
started it.
No, it's like I don't care about the actual politics, but I do kind of care about how it's portrayed in a weird way. It's like I kind of think they if it's such a big deal that everyone makes it out to be, and it's like, oh, you're governing. This is how we govern ourselves, man. This is how we make our country a better place. And it's like, I don't see that. I don't see that from anything that is broadcast to my face.
But you're not actually looking for that broadcast, though.
Yeah, because I've got fed up with it all. I extremely apathetically avoid it. Wait, that's not apathetic.
No, you can't do that.
Yeah. You can't apathetically avoid. That's true. It's annoying. You have to actively avoid. That's trouble.
You just have to watch it and not react. Is that what it's supposed to be? You're supposed
Thing
to
is, Rob,
TV is still TV.
I realised that
people move and make mouth noises.
Mouth noises.
Mouth noises.
Like, when is it Thursday, right? Like,
yes.
I realised that I can't even vote, like, tactically. I looked up my constituency, and it's the safest frickin' seat ever. Like, it's been Labour since 1950 or something. So there's basically zero chance of it being anything else. And I imagine Zach, I don't think... where are you? Like, mid-Suffolk, Stowmarket, Needham and Bury. That's been Tory probably forever, right? Whereas...
Plaid Cymru.
Whereas you, Rob, and Gnome, you actually in a marginal seat, so it actually matters. You're the only person where it actually matters.
Technically. Although the only thing that I've had to go on are the leaflets that have come through the door, and they all look like smug bastards.
Yep, that's the problem. That's double my problem, because my MP is Diane Abbott, and she's always on the TV being a bit smug. So, do you know the one? She's always on like the daily politics and stuff. She's like the larger black lady who's always on the TV.
Oh, yes.
Know the one.
Sorry, I know who you mean now. Yes. Yeah. Oh,
but she pretty much can't lose. So,
fair enough.
So there you are.
Political corner over.
Good.
Let's get apathetic about it.
I have to look out for my friend Katie, who's running to be an MP as a Tory for the Luton South. So look out for Luton South.
Yeah, just generally, that's good advice. Look out for Luton.
Look out for Luton South. Yeah, exactly. I don't know what the polls are there, but you never know. She could win. That'd be interesting.
It's amazing how many people are doing, how many different channels are doing like alternative election like things though. Because Channel 4's got one on. I think Sky's doing one.
I think there's an election
how
wipe
many people
the
are doing
night
it.
before, right?
Is it the night before? Okay.
I saw from Charlie Brooker there's potentially an election wipe, so that might be good.
Oh,
It'll just be more Ed Miliband. What was it? His campaign.
Pretty much.
Yeah. That was Woo. Election time over.
Yeah.
What else is new?
I got a dishwasher.
Yeah, that's true.
Are you using it?
We've used it once.
Is it washing the whole load?
The load appears to have been fully cleaned.
Okay.
Fully cleaned. But will it wash everything, or will there be things left over that you need to wash manually?
You shouldn't put things that with a non-stick coating.
No, I know.
In the dishwasher. Yeah.
But do you use that a lot? I guess you do.
Well, I suppose if you fry anything,
That's
like
true.
sausages or mushrooms.
True.
Because, fried mushrooms, yeah.
But generally...
If you make any filth, then you're using a non-stick pan. But if you're making even filthier filth, then you're using a stick pan. Because then you've got the shit that's built up on it. It's like a crusty stick pan.
And that's not going in the dishwasher.
Yeah. So we've got the slight problem that the dishwasher actually doesn't fit properly because, as it turns out, people still can't build houses. Like, so
we always knew this about this house and the previous one.
Your house is
calling you out,
disaster zone.
Chris Nicholson, you bunch of numpties.
Why can't they figure out how to build
it's
a
fine.
house?
It's a nice, I don't care. It's a good house. It just has its weird quirks, and this is one of them where they, there's a specially designed unit that is, that was quite easily removable, and they like, this is where the dishwasher should go. And it's like, fine, like they've thought about this, right? There's even a little isolator switch on the wall for the dishwasher. It's like, oh, great, okay, cool. So whenever we do this will be nice and easy, right? So we took the unit out. I found that there's a pipe that runs right across the back of where the dishwasher should be that stops it from going far enough back to sit flush in the unit.
Oh.
So it's like, oh, seriously? You've got to be kidding me. Someone has really screwed up. Additionally, there is a traditional plug socket right there that obviously adds like a centimetre of socket, and then you've got the plug sticking in it, and that is also right behind where the dishwasher sits. And so both those things mean that, the dishwasher can't actually sit flush against the back wall. So it's currently sticking out in a super ugly fashion, which is kind of irritating. We can sort it, and we have a plan for sorting it because then we can remove the socket, hardwire it in, because it's an isolator. That should be fine, and get someone to move the pipe. So there's a convenient little gap in that the dishwasher's not quite tall enough, and that we could make the pipe go over it instead with a few little.
But what is the pipe for anyway? Why did they put it there?
Well, I'm not 100% sure. It's an outlet from something. I think it's coming from the boiler, but I'm not 100% sure.
Okay. Sounds like you need to work that out for sure. It's mysterious. Yeah. You'd think everyone. It's not as if dishwashers are different depths, particularly.
No, they're all standard, which is part of the
standard.
problem.
Yeah. So they built a standard hole that's the standard height and the standard width, but they didn't build it to the standard depth.
Yeah, I think at some point, whoever was plumbing or something, I guess wasn't, because presumably they had to fit the kitchen after doing that stuff, after someone had wired the plug socket in, after someone plumbed the counter in, at least, potentially. So they knew where to cut holes, or maybe the plumbing was done afterwards, I don't know. Either way, someone didn't know what the bloody hell was supposed to go there, and they obviously screwed it up real bad. Because there's just no way it can work. So yeah, we've got to sort that out. And so it's sort of weird at the moment, because it's not screwed in place, so you can overbalance it when you're loading it. Which makes it fall out the hole somewhat. Yeah, and it sticks out, and the doors don't close properly. It's not good. It's not good.
Annoying.
So yeah, house builders. Know your trade.
But props to you for entering the 20th century.
Yeah, it should be nice. We've already cleaned the barbecue stuff in it.
Has that been lying around unclean for a while, or did you just have to have a barbecue?
Pretty much since September. It's been sort of in a fatty state, shall we say.
Yeah. So that's the first thing you used it on, Lo. It's like the grim stuff that hasn't been washed for like months, like 6 months.
Pretty much, yeah.
And it works perfectly.
It seems so, yeah.
Magic.
Dishwashers, eh?
It's a feature.
Smeg brilliant. This case,
Smeg, is it?
It is a Smeg.
Oh, right, there you go. So
more to hear about my
okay, can't wait.
Plans later.
Zach, have you got any kitchen anecdotes that aren't related to... Do you have a dishwasher? I don't think you guys do you?
No.
Do you do the dishes? No.
Well, it's the same problem as we discussed last time about my dishwashing habits, where it's like, I do them if they ever got to the point where I had to do them, but they never do because someone else does them before that point.
Right, so they don't get
leaving
to the
it in that
point.
state is horrible before it gets there. Yeah, it's just, I've got a real thing about it. I don't like it when there's too much on the counter in the kitchen. It's like, if there's a few things, I'm totally fine with it. In fact, I'll do the washing up and specifically sort of leave a few things because I'll get bored of the washing up, and then like just leave a couple of things. That's fine. When it's an epic pile of stuff, it's like, man, this.
But you've got plenty of space in your kitchen. It's not like 64 where it actually became a problem.
Well, yeah, I've seen it with kids living there. That's definitely a problem.
That was a tiny kitchen.
Yeah.
In pre-dishwasher times, I always did the washing up like immediately afterwards, pretty much. Because otherwise,
phases with that. Yeah.
I don't know.
It is easier if you do it straight away.
It depends what I ate.
And how bad it affected your stomach.
No, the plate. Like, it was something like, I don't know, beans, where it leaves a significant residue. That's like, you have to wash that properly. And that, you can't just like run that under the tap and rub it off that easily. I mean,
it's certain foods, like if you leave rice too long and it like goes dry and sticks to something like...
You've got to soak it for a good long time.
Cocking magic glue. It's the word.
Like cocking magic glue. Is that one of the Robco products?
Yeah, I was discussing this with my my board members the other day. Whether or not the Robco brand is seen as somewhat aggressive.
Isn't that the trademark?
The point.
Yeah, I know, but it's like it only appeals to a certain demographic of prison-worthy males. But it's
prison-worthy.
They might not have committed a crime just yet, but the chances are high.
They're worthy of prison. That's your target audience.
Yeah, but we haven't yet come up with an alternative campaign.
Target market.
To replace the merch fucking ranged merch fucker.
Well, if you need anything
Boner might be high on my list.
fixed up around the house, just get some cocking magic glue and
cocking magic glue.
Stick it back together with that.
Yeah, maybe that's the new thing. Maybe we just start every product we have with some kind of adverb. Cocking magic glue.
Or just that particular one.
Shitting bog roll.
It's descriptive. I mean, that's what it's for. As opposed to the more sort of general use role that could be used for other kinds of spills, etc. This one is just for a specific purpose.
Indeed. Yes, we design very precisely. Contoured.
What does that even mean in the context of two roll? Contour.
Well, presumably it's like has to be. Well, presumably it has to be a very personal thing, and that you come into our showroom and we get
we fit you in.
Toilet roll somehow rigid.
Pick a material, to a certain extent. Well, you make it a bit like a gum shield, and that you have to take a mold, and then.
Yeah.
And then
although you'd want that bit to be made out of plastic and then it has like an attachment for the toilet roll, so you replace the sheet onto the precisely contoured device.
Oh sure. Yeah, maybe well, yeah, it's like it's the tricks of the trade here. But the shitting bog roll is actually basically a form of memory foam. So the dispenser has the mold in it, and then it dispenses it. It sort of contours as it comes out. So you can put standard rolls in it. You don't have to buy specific, I don't know, Zach arse rollers into it. It's
you just need the Zach arse attachment thing.
You just need the Zach arse contour.
Right, and once you got that, you can just buy. But you can't use any old loo roll with it. You have to use special refills from.
You still have to. Yeah, I mean, we've got a product lock-in. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Lock-in. It's like water filters or whatever. Or
yeah.
Except that's a bad example because I think you can use own brand filters with. Can you? I don't know. What's the lock-in?
It depends if they have one of those weird like plastic attachments on those.
I think the worst lock-in is
the filter is sort of embedded in a capsule thing that you have to.
What's the one with the Brabantia bin? That's right. You get a posh bin, and then they're the only bin liners that fit it. Are special bin liners from the same brand as the bin.
You'd think the supermarket ones would be like when they say, "Oh, we've made one for pedal bins." Like they must be targeting bins like that, right?
You think so?
Because our one seems to be precisely incorrect for like bin liners. It's very difficult to find the ones that are good. Bin liners.
I don't know if you really tried though. I think you always buy the cheap shitty as the bin liners, and they're always cheap and shitty.
We don't anymore, actually. We gave up on those because they are
upgraded.
Yeah, I got fed up with them ripping. They are pretty thin and crappy. It's like when you have those plastic, like almost blister packed, like food containers that they just punch holes in the side of the bag, and it's like, oh, let's hope I can make it to the bin without it spilling out or getting bigger.
Ugh.
Bins.
Bin. So you got any bin related
have a
stories?
solution to the bins.
Something that Rodco can help with, maybe.
You can be our bin range focus group. No, nothing pissing you off about bins right now?
Not very focused.
No. Okay.
For a focus group. If it's a group of one, then it's not very focused.
Focus group?
Yeah,
it's a command.
Focus. Exactly. Okay. Podcast about video games.
Oh, that's all cleared up.
Yep. What's going on in the world? What's the news? What guan?
Wow. Following on from the, I don't know, Kojima gate, I suppose.
Okay.
That I think we've touched on before. Why
is everything a gate? Freaking hell. When's that going to end? Like, Watergate was a long time ago. Now everything is a gate.
In fairness, I think I just said that. I don't think Kojima gate is actually what they've been calling it.
Sure.
Like,
they would call it something more ingenious than that, surely.
Yeah, something Metal Gear related, right? It would be like...
Yeah.
I don't know.
Sure.
Remind me of the story. What was the deal?
So
he left.
Well, he left or was kicked or from Konami, and the story is not clear at this point because I believe, last I heard, I think Hideo's still actually under NDA agreement not to disclose what happened, although I think it's been sort of generally said that Konami wanted him gone from other sources for some reason. So we don't know exactly what's happened, but it sounds like they had a massive falling out because... he's, while Metal Gear he's still working on Metal Gear, he's allowed to do that, but everything else, he's not allowed to touch anymore. To the point where there was a point where his name was being removed from the advertising for products made by, his leadership, I guess. So, the pages for Silent Hills, for instance, they took his name off of that, so it's no longer a Hideo Kojima game. And for a bit,
before they cancelled that.
Well, yes, this is where this is leading, and that Silent Hills has been cancelled.
Okay.
It seems a bit unnecessary to have that middle step. It's like, we're going to take your name off it, and then we're just going to remove the whole thing.
Yeah. Which has made people quite unhappy, because, it's coming off the back of that whole PT thing, which everyone seems to bloody love. And to be honest, it is a pretty awesome bit of marketing, but... I guess people were excited for what that game could be on the back of PT, and it's never going to happen now. I guess this doesn't stop. I mean, the annoying thing about or the more intriguing thing about Silent Hills, I guess, is that it was a Kojima and Guillermo del Toro collaboration thing.
Yeah, now that kind of thing is kind of exciting, potentially.
Exactly. What kind of messed up monsters could he come up with?
Yeah, I mean. Just look at Hellboy 2, etc. and stuff. Or like Pan's Labyrinth or whatever. Exactly.
That kind of stuff. It could have been a real interesting thing. Even if I know for a fact it is not going to be something that I would be interested in. As a sort of general, its existence was interesting.
Sure.
So it's a shame that that's not going to happen.
But what's he going to do now? What's the deal? No one knows anything. No one even knows why he's left. It's like the frickin' the guy from Bungie. What was this guy? The composer guy.
Marty O'Donnell. Yeah,
that's the guy. Yeah. Still nobody knows what happened there, do they? They think.
Not exactly. Or at least not that I've looked up since it was news. So it's a bit. I mean, it sounds like it was a fairly non-amicable breakup. Because why else would it be like this?
Does seem strange. So what's the latest then?
That's pretty. Silent Hills getting cancelled was pretty much the latest.
It's pretty much it. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. I guess we'll have to wait and see how the story develops, right? Because
almost certainly he'll form his own studio and carry on, right? Because he's like a video gaming rock star.
Do you think
he doesn't know how to work without money? That's his problem.
I don't think
he just absorbs money.
Well, it makes you like. Who published Evil Within recently? Because that was I want to say Sakaguchi, I think, who's like the creator of Resident Evil or something, was on that. And if people like that can, get picked up by a large publisher to make to carry on the survival horror genre, I don't think Hideo's going to have any problem.
I don't know. He has that reputation of using so much money that people might be reluctant to risk it.
Yeah, but then the games are always such an event.
They might be risking like a Duke Nukem situation where he just keeps absorbing money for ages, and then the end up product isn't that great.
I don't think he's ever been that bad previously. I mean, we know Metal Gear is good. Metal Gear has already proven itself to likely be a good product thanks to Ground Zeroes. Metal Gear 4, love it or hate it, is a big fucking weird ass game that kind of deserves to exist, if you ask me. It's a bizarre thing, but I enjoyed my time with it.
I think you played that game.
Yeah.
Like when that must have been a while ago. It's quite an old game, isn't it? At this point, it's like a PS3 launch.
It wasn't launched. It was a little while. It was a little while after. I think it's about halfway through its life cycle.
Really? Okay.
Yeah, it was a reasonable while. I think maybe not half, but a little. I don't know. I think a world without Hideo Kojima games is a slightly more boring one. Just because they're so crazy. He'll be back.
He will definitely be back. It's not like he's getting old or anything, is it? Really?
What?
I mean, he's not like retiring age or anything.
No, I guess not. He's not like Shigsy, I suppose.
No.
Where Shigsy could drop out anytime he wanted and be quite comfortable.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Cool.
So other controversial news, I suppose, was the Steam mod thing.
Yeah. Okay. So let's go back on it. What happened? Oh God, modgate. Everything's a gate. Right.
You have to come up with. It has to be like. I was trying to think of a really dumb thing in Skyrim that would have come in with a mod that you could call it, but I can't think of any particularly dumb Skyrim mods to steal the name of.
No, I wouldn't know.
Macho Man Dragon Gate. Apart from that one wasn't made.
So the story behind this was that Valve, working with Bethesda, decided to allow Steam to support mods to be paid for. So, you could generate your thing, and then if you wanted money for it, you could start charging money for it on the service. Mm-hmm. Problem being that the community obviously doesn't like this because mods are considered to be a sort of freedom of expression thing for them. So they obviously kicked up a fuss going, what? This isn't right. Come on. And also, additionally, for those that were actually okay with the concept of people paying for mods, to be rewarded for their hard work and stuff like that, the cuts that Bethesda and Valve were taking were a bit much. So Valve takes their customary 30% cut, which is apparently standard for everything they do,
right?
Everything they sell,
from selling the games to all of everything, selling hats and shit.
But Bethesda,
presumably they get 100% of that.
I guess.
Oh, their own hats, right? Yeah.
Yeah, sure.
Are there any other
Bethesda obviously could create a cut on top of that, and I think that made it up. They took like 40% or something. So basically, the end creator was only getting 30% of the charge.
Right.
So from whichever way you look at this doesn't really feel like what Valve were intending. Like, they came out and said, look, the reason why we're doing this is we think if people get paid for their work, then everybody wins, right? Because the guys that are creating the content get more of an impetus to make great content, and then they will get rewarded for doing so they can therefore carry on making great content, whilst simultaneously the players get a better quality product, that kind of...
Or do they?
But that's the thing, or do they? Or is it just open it up to a whole load of crap mods that you have to pay for?
That was the obvious problem, that they basically flicked a switch that allowed you to put a price on workshop mods essentially. It wasn't really very complicated. And that's why it was a bad idea, because it wasn't complicated, because there was no quality control and no way to prevent people from just uploading a free mod off the Nexus and stealing it or whatever.
Steam has already proven itself to be kind of terrible at quality control thanks to early access and Greenlight.
Yeah.
So adding this to the mix doesn't, no one's particularly confident in that being a good outcome.
And obviously the other problem that the community was annoyed about was that they introduced it in a game where the mods already existed, and that was bound to cause problems.
Yeah. I mean, there were some mods, for instance, some of Skyrim works on the principle of mods building upon mods.
Well, a lot of Skyrim does.
Yeah.
Practically everything uses the script extender.
Yeah, the script extender, there's one, I think, is it Sky UI or something like that?
Well, that's just the UI fixes to make it less like the shitty console.
But there are a number of mods that then build on what that provides. But Sky UI became a paid mod, meaning that these other mods that rely on it couldn't function unless players bought the Sky UI mod.
Right.
So it basically fucked everything up. Yeah. And really, it's it was bad because they all already existed, but even if they hadn't have already all existed, it's still a problem. It's if someone had made a mod and made it paid, and then everyone else wanted to build upon that mod, but then it's the people who want to just make something cool and put it up for free, they're still effectively behind a paywall because they're behind the other guy's paywall.
Yeah. They basically had a no-win situation for anyone, really, apart from Valve and Bethesda, who would get cash out of it.
Yep, just get money.
And none of what their messaging was saying came to fruition. It just seemed so badly thought through. And admittedly, after the fact, they have now stopped that. They reverted on their position, saying, "Okay, it turns out this was a bad idea," but they sort of said it in a sort of we're not done with this kind of way. I think they basically came out and said, "Look, we're going to keep investigating this because we think it's a good idea, but to encourage people to get rewarded for what they make." But at the same time, they said it's clear that the approach we took wasn't what anyone really wanted.
It'll be fine when they just do it on a new game, so it doesn't have any mods to start with, so there's no existing idea of them not being the option.
Maybe, but
it will still cause the same problems with the stacking of mods if you don't. Basically, everyone seems to think that the next likely target will be Fallout 4.
Obviously,
whenever that actually comes out. Probably there'll be something before that, but Doom, the next major one.
Okay.
But
Doom is Bethesda, so maybe that will get something. I don't know.
But the trouble is that Bethesda games just inherently cause that problem because they're so fucked. They need mods upon mods to actually build a structure for other mods to work upon.
Well, yeah, if they float Skyrim 6 or not Skyrim, Elder Scrolls, where are they up to now? Is it 6?
Yeah,
Skyrim
6.
5?
Yeah. Skyrim 5.
So if Elder Scrolls 6 has some mods, properly baked in mod support, then maybe this wouldn't have been so much of an issue in the first place. I don't know.
I mean, a bunch of other people were also saying that maybe they should have thought about doing it with city skylines, but I don't think that sort of has the opposite problem, where I don't think there's enough actual modability in city skylines. It's you can make fancy buildings, but no one's going to buy those because that's just a graphical thing. And the actual modding.
Well, you say that, that's no different from I don't know.
Well, okay, some people are going to buy them.
Yeah.
But it's not going to be you're not going to be able to charge more than 10, 20p.
Yeah, exactly.
And then I don't think there's actually that much deep modding you can do in Skylines as it stands, really.
Yeah.
You can do some, but not for not a £5 mod.
Yeah, I mean, this is the thing. In that case, if it's microtransactions, as in super microtransactions, a few pennies here and there, then maybe it's okay. But if you're talking several quids for a mod that perhaps just puts "haha, I'm a mod" on screen, without you knowing. I mean, some of the protest mods that came out were pretty great.
Oh yeah, what did they do?
There was the slightly unsubtle variants, one that added the Gaben troll, which was basically a troll with Gabe Newell's face on it with $signs for eyes. Into the game. The unsubtle one. Or the more subtle version, where someone added a beggar that basically hung out outside every town that was dressed in quite fancy clothing, Like, but and the description read like, "Oh, just adds a beggar outside every town that will take your money for no reason." Like, community fought back, and the community won.
Wow, sort of.
For now, this battle isn't over. I feel
probably over for Skyrim.
Yeah.
So what is the ultimate outcome? So Valve backtracked, I guess, right?
Yeah.
And
so the ultimate outcome at the moment is that there was no outcome. It's back to where it started.
Okay. So it just reverted everything.
It's back to where it started, but everyone's pissed off.
Yeah. Basically what they've done is they've annoyed everyone, is the result of it all. Right. So they've lost... I think they're on the right track with Workshop and stuff like that in general, but the fact that it's been mostly free so far has sort of worked in its favour. They need to think of a subtler way of adding this stuff in, or at least make it less obvious how much of a cut they are taking. Or because it just feels so unfair. Something about it just doesn't rub me the right way.
Well, apparently you're not alone, which makes sense. I mean,
it's the problem with anyone when you suddenly go from free to money. It never feels good, right?
No, I mean, but I don't know. It's good. I mean, the principle of having the mod creators be allowed to charge what they want for their mods or whatever, it doesn't seem too bad. As long as if you were taking zero cut, then maybe that would be, would have been welcomed. Even though I still have the situation where if the one guy who made the mod that everyone's built on started charging, then you couldn't use anyone else's stuff unless you paid him or her.
I think if Valve and Bethesda's cut combined was like 30%, then this wouldn't have been quite so bad. Apart from the fact you would have had to pay for mods that were previously free, that kind of stuff. If the cut was only that much, then the argument that the developers get rewarded seems a bit more plausible.
Yeah. And it's not like you could still
with it adding up to 70%. That's
right? Where if you
problem is with it adding up to 70%, it feels like you just got a crappy publishing deal.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah,
which is the traditional market, I guess. But.
So I mean, So Valve just did their standard 30%, and then it was like Bethesda
added
put on top.
Added a 40% cut themselves.
So you think it would have been all right if they negotiated the Bethesda equivalent cut out of the 30% Valve cut?
I think that would have been fine.
Maximum. Yeah, it seems.
Or it's at least a lot better because then the modders get rewarded as they should, and Valve still get something. It's still another revenue stream for Valve.
Another revenue stream for Valve, and a new one for Bethesda as well. Even if it's small, but yeah.
It feels like they perhaps should have tested the water a little more subtly with this stuff.
Yeah, rather than just
going in so deep. And as Zach says, maybe if it was a subtle cut on a new game that has only just come out and all of its mod support is like this, then perhaps it would have made a lot more sense, and perhaps it would have eased in.
But instead, they chose one of the most popular modded games on Steam. Yeah.
Well,
to run an experiment.
Several people were saying that no one's complaining about the new Unreal Tournament having microtransaction mods where you buy maps or whatever.
Well, that's because no one's really playing it.
That's the main reason why no one's complaining about it. But it was in from the start, so that it was always there, so people didn't really notice
but that's like a full
to complain about it.
But that's because the game is
open source project, isn't it? That whole game.
Yeah, it's because Unreal Tournament is going to be effectively free. And
I think that's
what you want for it is what you pay for.
I think that's still just as dumb for Unreal Tournament, because it's if you're playing on a multiplayer server, you need the maps. That's how that game works.
The maps are going to be the problem with that, yeah. Presumably that won't be something they can do like that, don't they? But then again, games do that for DLC. It's, it's a tricky one. For running servers, it's a real tricky one. Hopefully they'll figure something out for that. So yeah, modgate.
It was interesting seeing Gaben in emergency control mode or whatever, doing emergency AMAs to Reddit and saying, "Don't hate me."
Kevin said he didn't really do an emergency AMA. No. He said he did a try and reinforce the message AMA, and then it was I guess that didn't work.
That didn't work either. Yeah. But he said some weird stuff, like he said, like, if you piss off the internet, it costs you millions of dollars or something to do with email or what? Do you see that?
Well, I'm sure it does. You get a massive flood of crap in your inbox of people bitching at you.
Yeah. Basically, yeah. Anyway.
Time loss, I suppose.
Yeah. Well, hopefully they learn their lesson. Everyone brought out that stupid old Steam GIF, from when Steam originally launched and was shit. The one where someone bending over and the Steam logo is like penetrating them, pretty much. Do you remember that one?
I don't, actually.
Yeah, it's a classic GIF, and everyone was bringing it back out again. Anyway.
So, in good development news...
In good news? The big news of the week, for me, probably.
Well, I'm going to say something else first, I'm sure.
Yeah, I'm fairly sure.
I'm going to go ding 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 ding.
Wait, that's not even. Is that even good news? Really, it's news.
News. It's something.
I would say it's amazing.
It's Rob's pinball update.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Sorry, I said that with the pinball update. I was going because I meant that was a bad joke. The dinging.
Ding 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 ding.
It wasn't because I'm against
ding.
pinball. It was that was a weird audio based, like that was meant to be like a ticker tape, but also sound like a pinball machine. Is that right?
It's not the first time I've done that. Admittedly, it's been a real long time since I've done an official pinball update.
It's not a ticker tape, it's telegraph, isn't it?
And I don't think you've ever done. I don't think you've ever done the noise quite that much.
And normally I do it a bit like a bit more rather than ding ding ding. I suppose. The DX11 lighting stuff has finally hit beta in Pinball Arcade, meaning we can now have our version look a bit like the Xbone version and PS4 version. And it looks pretty nice.
Good as the PS4 version?
It does look pretty nice. It has to be said. The lighting model is pretty cool, but it doesn't run totally great yet. At least not on my machine. But they're finally doing it. God damn it! It's only like a year after they said they would. But there appears to be like one guy working on it. So
one guy,
just one guy called Mike.
He's doing a good job.
So big up him. But come on, get it. Hurry up. no pressure, man. Come on, Mike. Yeah.
Put your finger out.
It's cool that it's finally here. Like to see it finished. Pinball news done.
Woo!
Okay.
More development news. How much do you like Rare's previous 3D platforming games? I'm talking Banjo-Kazooie, Banjo-Tooie, and Donkey Kong 64.
And maybe
I like them.
Oh yeah, and Conker. Yeah, definitely Conker.
And that other one.
Shit, yeah, Conker.
I like them. Not as much as the Nintendo platformers, but
Sure. I was a big fan of Banjo-Kazooie. I thought that was a really good game. And Donkey Kong 64 is pretty good as well. And I never finished Conker because it's actually pretty difficult.
Kickstarter news.
Yes, correct? Kickstarter news. Like a lot of old Rare guys that aren't rare as we think of them now because who are they?
They were left.
Who are they? Have formed a new company called Playtonic Games and have been immediately kickstarted to make a Banjo-Kazooie spiritual successor called, and this is probably the worst bit about this news, it's called Ukulele, but spelt really weirdly, a bit like Banjo-Kazooie.
Was Banjo-Kazooie actually spelt that weirdly?
Well, Banjo was spelt right, but Kazooie, Kazooie.
Yeah, but that's just Kazoo with extra letters.
Yeah.
Well, okay. Yuka is spelt Yooka dash Laylee, Laylee.
Yeah.
Ukulele.
Okay. Yeah. Well, that's dumb, but still.
That's pretty dumb.
Could be good.
But still. Here's the thing, right?
Probably not.
It's been...
It's
been a really long time.
Long.
It's been a really long time since we've had a 3D platformer that isn't a Mario game, if you know what I mean. And I guess Mario still proves that you can do them, but they're kind of different from what Mario 64 was right now.
Oh, totally.
It's like, I guess the last one like that may be the Galaxy games, but even they've
Galaxy
kind
2,
of...
maybe? But even
yeah. They've sort of moved away from that sort of adventure-y feel. Like Sunshine, I suppose, was the last one in that traditional mold, I guess. maybe. So yeah, it's been a while, and it's a question of whether it will hold up, I guess, in modern standards, or if they're going to go about modernizing it. But all the wording they use makes it sound like it's going to be like a love letter to the old way of doing things. Which obviously a lot of people are getting behind.
Yeah. I don't think there's anything wrong with the Mario 64 model of the hub world and the non-linear way of doing that. I thought that was cool. Games seem to be more linear than they used to be in some ways. I don't mean open world ones, but sort of.
Yeah, I guess. I suppose the Mario games always let you just sort of go off and do some of the extra stars in different places. You don't have to linearly approach them.
Yeah.
But then something like Mario Wii U, you do. So
yeah, exactly.
Like the 2D Mario games.
But that's consciously harking back to those, isn't it? That's consciously harking back to pre-Mario 64 times.
Sure,
anyway.
the new Mario games, the new Super Mario Brothers games, are targeting Mario 3 and World as their sort of style inspiration, I suppose.
I wouldn't have said the actual Mario games, even back to 64, were that open. Because it was like you can do different stars, but each individual star has a very specific path to get to it, basically.
The level layout sometimes alters to fit to that star and stuff like that. They kind of, and as soon as you get that star, you get kicked out because it's like, well, you're done here.
That's true.
It wasn't just like you couldn't just load into like Bob-omb Battlefield and have all 7 stars there and be able to do whichever one you wanted.
Sure, which is the Banjo model.
Yeah.
Although the Banjo model was quite irritating in a way because it was a lot easier if you did everything in a single sitting. Like if you went to that level and did everything in one go.
Because you were like eliminating enemies and getting them out of the way and stuff.
Yeah, a bit of that. I think some of them respawned, but a bit of them was like because you've triggered events, it just in your process of going through the level that would have made it easier to finish them off as you were just going through. You were sort of doing everything as you went, as you stumbled upon it. So you wouldn't go, I wonder if this is what gets me the puzzle piece. I wonder if because it's never that clear. It's not like the stars where it's like, oh hey, Pete's back. PT Piranha, whatever it is back. You're gonna have to go fight him, and it's made super obvious that that's what you gotta do. It's like you get nothing. It's just like go to this area of the map. Oh, this area of the map looks kind of interesting, but I don't know what I'm doing here. Do I need to do something elsewhere first before I can come here? Do I need an ability I haven't got? It was a little freeform. And the problem was that starting from scratch reset the level to its starting position, and there may be stuff you'd have to go figure out or remember, or to the point what you did in order to get to the same point you got stuck at last time. So, structurally it was a little problematic, but still good games.
Yeah. So, damn, what's the stupid name again? Ukulele. Yeah.
Ukulele.
That'll be a while, right? But it's been kickstarted, so who knows? I'm sure it'll be good.
Oh, yeah, it's basically the Kickstarter, basically only really started, and it met its target of $100 and something thousand pretty much immediately.
So they weren't asking for a huge.
No, they weren't. Their current, although the current forecast, people are saying that they reckon they'll make $1 million easy. At the rate it's been going.
Cool.
Oh, it's lucky they already had stretch goals set out for pretty much up to $1 million.
Yeah.
What a surprise. They probably sort of knew what was going to happen.
Does anyone know what's going on with actual Rare? I thought there was some news that they're announcing a game at E3 or something. Is that right?
Well, it sounds about right, doesn't it? Because it's been a while since the last Kinect Sports was the last thing they did.
Right.
And when did that come out? Early last year, I want to say.
They need to put out a game, for sure. They've needed to for a while.
They need to put out a good game.
Yeah.
They're not going to, though.
Yeah.
No, probably not.
Kinect Sports 3.
I think they can't do that again because of the Kinect not being bundled in, and I don't think they can do another Kinect game.
Or they'll do Kinect Sports 3 for a Kinect bundle.
Maybe.
Like a pack-in game.
Yeah, maybe. Maybe be a little... I was about to say be a little less ambitious, but the ambition is the only thing that made that game interesting.
And it also wasn't really ambitious enough even then.
No. the annoyingly most interesting thing about that game was, well, the jet ski was kind of cool, has to be said. That worked pretty well. But that's the whole face thing. Like, I could make a character that looks like me, kinda. That's pretty cool. No.
Yeah, no.
Incredibly cool.
I guess it's kind of cool. I don't know. Like, I don't know. What franchises they got left? They lost a bunch to Nintendo, I guess.
Well, they still own Conker.
They basically screwed up Perfect Dark with Perfect Dark Zero. Not that it was that bad, but
sure, but they could do it again, and they technically did. They did good by Perfect Dark with that pretty good remastered version of the first Perfect Dark.
That's true.
Although it's hard to say that Rare did that. They probably got a team like some other, like a team like Backbone. Probably Backbone did it to put that together.
I don't know if Perfect Dark would work today. Like, even if you did it fully new and kind of inspired by the old ones, I don't know if that.
Sure, there would have to be some changes, like because just the way it controls isn't.
Oh yeah, no, you could completely replace that with pretty much Halo or whatever, and it would still work.
Well, this is kind of why again, I mean, Time Splitters has that same problem, right? And yet the Time Splitters Rewind project, I did check in with it eventually. It's still going, just incredibly slowly.
I think Perfect Dark would actually. Sorry to interrupt, because that is still going, right? The Time Splitters thing.
Yeah, Time Splitters Rewind is still a thing. Like, when eventually some stuff for that comes out, it'll be interesting to see how that plays, because it will be on PC. And it's like, okay, this hasn't really been done before like this. Yeah. That's going to be interesting. But yeah, sorry, go ahead.
No, I was just thinking, like, the way that Deus Ex moved with Human Revolution, it moved in a slightly, if you think about it universe-wise, it moved in a slightly sort of Perfect Darkish direction, sort of. I don't know. I think a new Perfect Dark might be a bit Deus Ex-y in terms of the world. You know, like, it had a similar thing where you were in Chicago even, weren't you? And it had these, like, futuristic corporations, and it was raining and stuff and all of that.
I see. What, purely aesthetically, right?
Yeah, aesthetically, and you had like laptop briefcase guns and lots of high tech, and then you had aliens and stuff. Like, actually, it's not that far off in terms of.
I guess, yeah. Well, there needs to be more strip lights that bloom horrifically. That's what Perfect Dark is about.
Yeah,
and corridors made of glass.
I mean, honestly, Mass Effect 3 had quite a lot of horrific blooming strip lights.
I thought it looked real good.
It looked awesome, yeah. Yeah, obviously. But it was massively bloomy in a hilarious way. It was pretty much like that Star Trek film. But yeah.
The trendy wine bar.
Yeah, the trendy wine bar of a bridge. Except the bridge was a lot darker in Mass Effect. It was like a dark
that ship in general is pretty dark.
But yeah. Anyway, other Rare franchises, what have they got? What they got?
There is some
much
Conker
Nintendo
news
stuff.
that I don't know if we've mentioned.
I think we might have done.
I mean, Conker is coming to Project Spark, but they actually sort of expanded upon it in that there is going to be a sort of rather large-scale Conker game that will be released via Project Spark.
Right.
Who knows what that'll be, but it'll be, presumably to try and drum up more interest in Project Spark, but,
Well, yeah. Well,
which I've never tried, despite it being, free and stuff. I should really try that.
Think it'd be worth it?
Well, it's free. Of course it'll be worth it.
I mean, worth your time.
You never know. You can see what people have made of it. I don't know the full capabilities of that thing, but if they're attempting a Conker game in it, and they've shown some footage and stuff of it, it looks all right.
Sure.
So, yeah, we'll see.
So we'll have to wait and see whether maybe Rare will come up with a new thing. You never know.
Well, the last time they did that was Viva Pinata.
Was it?
Well, or if you're ignoring Connect Sports, I suppose.
Yeah, I guess it was.
Which was technically new Rare, not old Rare, I suppose, by that.
I mean, that was awesome, but it was a bit too niche. That's the only problem with Pinata.
It's a great game, but
it's meant to be a kid's game, but it's too good.
It's pretty hardcore,
complicated. Yeah.
But we liked it, so I wouldn't mind seeing. Although it was a weird sort of heavy-handed attempt by that game was a weird heavy-handed attempt by Microsoft as well to do that whole cross-media thing, wasn't it? Because there was a cartoon that flopped massively, and the game was supposed to tie into it and stuff like that, except it didn't really tie into it. It was just sort of the same universe and things like that, and it didn't really work as planned. It worked well enough that they made a second Viva Pinata game, but
that's true. I think they did that for love rather than because it made financial sense.
And I guess before... No, actually, I'm trying to remember when... Viva Pinata must have come after, must have been afterwards, but then before that was Banjo-Kazooie Nuts and Bolts.
Yeah.
Which I don't like.
That game is famous for having, snarky, comments in it, isn't it? It's got, a bunch of references to how awful the development was in the game, which is really weird.
Yeah, because it went through so many... Because it was originally going to be Banjo 3E,
right.
and went through a number of design changes, got merged with another project that Rare were working on that got cancelled. It's a bit of a weird mismatch of old projects is what Nuts and Bolts is.
Weirdly screwed around by Microsoft to the point where the main baddie in the game is pretty much Microsoft. Is that right?
I really wish that was how it actually played out. I didn't like that game. I didn't get very far of it, and I didn't get it. Even if you took Banjo out of the equation, the fact that they used that word onto a game that wasn't really the same.
Yeah.
I still don't think I would have liked it.
Like Star Fox Adventures. They tacked that onto Dinosaur Planet, didn't they?
Sure, but that was an okay game, right?
Zach liked
it. It was like a poopy Zelda ripoff,
yeah.
Technically, it was pretty nice.
Yeah, that was the first game I remember they had that cool fur effect.
Yes, the fur was okay.
But it was still a poofy Zelda ripoff.
Yeah.
Speaking of dumb cartoon tie-ins, I watched some of Sonic Boom.
Oh, really?
Show.
I haven't seen any of that.
It's not terrible. They're a bit over enthusiastic about slow-mo. It's in every episode I've seen so far, they've had at least one dramatic when someone's diving through the air or something and it goes all slow-mo for a minute. It's that you need to stop doing that.
But Sonic's got to go so fast. Is that how you see things?
I guess. But apart from that, it's all right.
Well, this is what I mean. I didn't think the writing, from the bits I've seen of the Sonic Boom game, I didn't think the writing was its weak point.
Well, I think the thing that makes the cartoon...
Apart from bounce pads, and I like rings,
yes.
And
apart from the things that they say all the time.
Hey, this looks like a ramp. I bet we could use it as a ramp.
I think what makes the cartoon version maybe better is there's quite a lot more focus on Robotnik. Rather than some random snake dude like there was in the game.
Robotnik is inherently the one character they can make as funny as they want, right?
Yes.
And they've been doing that quite well since Sonic's Colors.
Yes, he's quite more involved in some comedy. And it's weird where they have this whole Sonic Boom thing where they've made all these adjustments to the characters, but then you still have that Cubebot and Orbot from Colors. They're still there. Why did they keep those guys? Why were they so cool that they decided to survive to the Sonic Boom generation?
Because they're effective. I guess they were the most obvious comedic relief, right?
But his other, he has them as his sidekicks, I guess, because they're always there making dumb comments as they do.
And I guess they're not Clux and Grounder or whatever they were from Scratch, from Sat-Am, because goddammit, they were annoying.
But they would have been quite interesting to be modernised. Maybe with less retarded voices. But when you have Robotnik with his other robots, it's the classic robot designs, like the Ladybird thing with one wheel and the Buzz Bombers, and it's that's really weird.
Why? Because they're classic.
Yes, but it's you compare these weird orb with arms and a face, and then it's just classic old robot.
Old robot. Oh, what you think they don't work so well together?
Yeah, it's just let's choose random elements from the timeline of Robotnik stuff and just mash them together.
Well, who knows? Cubot and Orbot could be I don't know, advanced technology that he doesn't want to waste on all of his minion bots.
Well, and then there's still the occasional major robot where it's here's a big robot that they have to fight, and then that's just generic. That's Power Rangers or whatever. It's just a big thing that's vaguely robotish, and it does a thing, and then you punch it and it falls over.
Yeah, with a dazed look on its face if it has a face.
Yep, exactly. So,
I think I saw like a good portion of the first episode of it and thought, this is alright.
it's all right. Knuckles isn't quite as dumb as he seems.
I heard he gets a whole episode like pretty much to himself at some point.
Well, I'm sure they all do. They have to do that. That's the classic maneuver.
Yeah. Mix up. In a weird way, it makes the Sonic Boom game sound like more of a cynical move by Sega. Like, we've got this great idea for a cartoon and it's coming together real well. Shit, let's slap a game together.
Well, yeah. It's like it seems like they tried to have it be attached to the same world, because I haven't seen it in any of the episodes that I've seen, because I've only seen like the first 5 or 6 maybe, but it seems like later on there's like the other villagers from the village in the game.
Oh, right.
But in the game, it's like some ridiculous island in the middle of nowhere that they've only just got to, and then there's like time travel, and
yeah,
it's like it doesn't seem to get into that at all so far that I've seen in the start of the cartoon, which is like kind of weird.
The cartoon kind of separates itself from a story, really. They want the episodes to be
self-contained.
Yeah,
but then it still seems to try and take place in that world. But will they bother to try and excite it? Because if you think about like fucking Sonic X, that started with the whole thing. It was like how they got to this world was the first episode.
Yeah, someone actually explained why they're not on Mobius anymore. It's like after Sonic Adventure just kind of went, yeah, humans, whatever.
Yeah, and then they worked Sonic Adventure back into that storyline later, where it made sense. And it's like it's logic.
People actually thought that through, which is odd. It doesn't really fit with Sonic, right? Thinking things through.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, there was that. News?
I do still have a complete set of Sonic X figurines.
Yep, you do.
That is probably the lowest moment of my existence.
That is the lowest ebb. Oh, God. Well, you're nerding out about Sonic. I'm nerding out slightly about Star Wars. They've just put out like 6 new pictures, and that's it. Like some stills. But like,
you sound like a GTA reveal.
Yeah.
There's one.
Dan won't shut up about it for ages. It's like, oh my god, a screenshot.
Just you wait until later. Anyway.
Yeah, I know. It's going to get worse over the course of this year.
Worse. Oh, yeah. There's a picture of the cool-looking Rebel pilot or whatever. He's not Rebel. What do they call it? Resistance pilot or whatever. They got the same logo as the Rebel Alliance with his new X-Wing. And he's like looking cool hanging off the side of the cockpit of the new X-Wing, you know, on a planet or whatever. I swear, it looks like he's got his foot in the freaking torpedo tube. Like, that doesn't seem like a good idea. Is that a foothold?
It's just a tube.
Yeah, I suppose.
If you had to dangle off the side of the X-Wing, because there's not really much else on the X-Wing.
There
isn't like a handhold or whatever.
But is that, you know, if it was a...
Well, you're not firing it at the time, so you're probably okay.
Yeah. You think that's okay to put your foot in the torpedo tube? I don't know.
It's just a tube.
That's probably.
I guess you don't even really know, like, what even are the torpedoes? Are they like energy in the Star Wars universe, or are there actual physical torpedo parts in there?
I thought they were a bit like chunky missiles, weren't they? In that?
Well, they never show it more than like a glowing ball, really, do they?
That's
in
true.
The films,
they're kind of glowy, aren't they? But they must be physical things compared to the laser bolts. I think they must have physical parts. The proton torpedoes, don't they?
X-wings have torpedo tubes.
Yeah, because that's how they blow up the Death Star. It's like the port is ray shielded. So you'll have to use proton torpedoes. That's the line.
No, I guess. Yeah.
You play X-Wing vs TIE Fighter and you get them.
But then proton torpedoes basically act more like just missiles, right? In that sense.
I guess.
Like, rather than torps, as in, like, I don't know, in other space franchises where torps are incredibly slow-moving giant things.
Yeah. No,
they infer that... I guess in the X-Wing setup, they never use them ship to ship. They only use them for the bombing run, which makes them like torpedoes because they're presumably unguided, and the fact that they just go down the hole is
well, they are guided because there's the whole targeting computer of doodly, and he's like...
No, that's just for timing, though. That's not necessarily guidance. That's like telling you when to fire them, isn't it?
What, and you think at that point they're dumb? Like, you just...
Yeah, they might be just dumb missiles.
But they would have still had to, like, I don't know, do that. They go straight down, they make a sudden course change, right?
That might just be camera angle, though. Because he implies that when he was shooting Womp Rats on Tatooine or whatever, that's just like a bombing run, isn't it? You're firing with a projectile arc,
Yeah,
and the fact that it just maybe there's like the ray shielding of the Death Star chief actually sort of funnels them almost, like it's magnetically repulsive. But
I think that shot
Right,
is
but
weird.
it's never
I
really
think they
explained,
added that
yeah.
actual shot of the torpedo going into the tube. I think they added that in the special edition. I think that's a weird shot because it looks like he uses the force to actually like curve it around in like a weird way. Just as he's like, and then he breathes out in a kind of dramatic fashion.
I mean, in theory, like the Death Star is big enough that it would have gravity on the surface to suck them downwards towards the surface.
Yeah, that's
so you
true.
could potentially like have an actual parallel arc of your fire.
That's true. I don't know. It's mysterious because that's not how it looks on the little computer simulation, the really basic computer simulation that they.
Well,
show
yeah,
in
the computer
briefing.
simulation shows it more like a bomber because it like the dot that releases it, like it releases it from the bottom, and then the dot goes down and the ship curves up,
Yeah,
like an actual bomber would.
Yeah, it must have some guidance. I reckon that computer is setting up the guidance, like the
Maybe,
laser targeting.
I'm more on that side. Maybe they call. I just had a thought that maybe they just call them torpedoes, not because they're actually torps in that traditional sense, I suppose, but because they often equate space combat to naval combat, and like maybe that's the only real reason.
Well, yeah, but that's still the same really as torpedoes. It's like
you don't get underwater missiles.
Torpedoes can sometimes be guided and sometimes not be guided. It's like it just depends.
I suppose. But maybe that's what I mean. Maybe they call them that in the Star Wars universe to like refer to any kind of like fighter style missiles as well. They're just torpedoes because they're going full on naval nomenclature.
Yeah, but they definitely have missiles as well, don't they? In Star Wars, like actual like lock on.
Well, sure, but they might be called torpedoes.
Probably not ever shown in the movies.
Yeah, what are the ones you get in?
Because they have it in
the game.
Slave One has a missile, doesn't it?
Yeah, I guess.
That tracking missile.
Yeah.
He doesn't call that a torpedo. Or does he? Wait.
Does he call it anything? Does he say fire it?
I guess maybe.
What did the A-Wings
or something like
in X-Wing versus TIE Fighter or whatever? They have homing missiles. That's what kind of... other than the fact they're insanely fast, that seems to be the main thing that... Because they've got huge like torpedo tubes on the side, haven't they?
What are they called in Star Trek? Are they
concussion missile. There you go.
Torpedoes?
Concussion missile. That was
right.
right. I don't know why they're called concussion missile, but that's it. Yeah. Anywho, Star Wars.
Yes.
Stuff will happen.
There will be more.
So the 6 images were basically because they had to do something for May the 4th, right?
I guess. There's a picture of the bad guy who's the guy from the girls
something.
who looks cool. There's a picture of the cool-looking X-Wing guy. There's like a bunch of pictures of awesome-looking weird aliens from the not Tatooine planet.
Tatooine.
And that's mostly it. Oh no, there's a picture of the weird-looking like silvery stormtrooper of Doom, who's apparently played by the Brienne of Tarth from Game of Thrones.
Woo.
But you don't watch Game of Thrones, so you don't know who that is. But it's okay. She's the awesome giant knight lady who murderizes people.
Weirdly, I actually know who that is because I caught a glimpse of it today. Just as I was channel hopping, there was a bit of it on Sky Atlantic, and it's like, and they're having a conversation about how she's the ugliest girl like ever.
Oh right, yeah. Ho was really disappointed by that whole conversation. She was like, "Oh, I like that character, and that was the most boring, shitty backstory ever. Now I hate her."
It did seem quite dull.
Shitty. Yes, it was really dull and shitty.
Basically, the bit of Game of Thrones that I have now seen has not sold me on Game of Thrones at all.
No, that's not the cool part, to be fair. But I'm not saying that you would like it necessarily. I think you would actually, Rob. But I mean, I would in general.
You're probably right. I probably would, but it's been so long now.
Oh, screw it. Yeah, watch it all in a box set one day in 10 years' time or something. Then you'll be fine. Star Wars, yes. Video game news. My news of the week, which I'm sure you've heard, is about Dirt Rally.
Oh,
well, we get into that later.
Well, yeah, we were purposefully not talking about that.
Okay, let's not talk about it. Woo! Next.
And the same reason we're also purposefully not talking about Kerbal Space Program yet. But
that's
Okay.
that's barely news in itself.
Well, should we say that now then?
Well, both those games came out. There you go.
Well,
We'll talk about those games more later on.
Well, technically, no, they didn't. Dirt Rally came out in early access out of the blue.
Equivalent.
And Kerbal Space Program is no longer early access. It is officially 1.0.
Da, 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 da. It's
As it turns
out.
Oh. Yep, it can no longer win our best game that has not come out yet award.
I can't tell. I'm looking at, I don't know if it's PC Gamer US. I guess it's PC Gamer US, or whether that's even a different thing from PC Gamer UK. But either way, now that Kerbal Space Program is out, they gave it a review because it's out, and they gave it 96.
Wow. That's a hell of a score.
Yeah. So that doesn't happen very often from them. So there you go. That was sort of news. Yeah.
But yes, we'll talk about Dirt Rally later.
Okay. That was my news, so I don't really
We'll
care
talk about it now, in fact, if news is over.
Sure, let's do it.
Let's talk about Dirt Rally.
Okay.
So one of you's played it then? I take
No,
it.
we've both played it.
We
Because I
both played it. Yeah,
and recorded a video.
we've done a video of it as well.
Oh
so-
shit, I want to see that. You put it up.
You won't for 2 or 3 more weeks.
No,
probably.
it's fine. I can do that as the next one I've done. I've got a Final
prioritize.
Fantasy and a Besiege video in the hopper ready to go. So it's
Cool.
So I could skip ahead if I get time to code it up and stuff. Yeah, that kind of came out of nowhere, right?
Yep, on purpose it came out of nowhere, right? So what's the deal? It's the game that we wanted for years.
Yeah,
and now
They
it's suddenly here.
They've sort of made good on, I guess it was what the first Colin McRae Dirt was sort of felt like it was heading towards, and then had all this other stuff in it as well, and then they sort of ran away from it wildly in Dirt 2 and 3. So yeah, this basically looks like the very focused rally game we've been looking for. And, having played it, that's absolutely what they're going for.
Right.
It's pretty hardcore.
That's what I expected,
And-
right?
And kind of in a good way.
Yeah. But
Even
not
if
in,
I really
not in
fucking
an
struggled
insane...
the first time I picked up a controller, because, man, that was hard.
Right.
I was alright by the second run. I'd sort of learned how
Figured
you
it
need
out.
to tackle the game. Problem was, I'd come off literally by playing Forza Horizon minutes earlier, I suppose.
Right.
It's like, yeah,
Trying to get
and then
back
going
to...
into something that is, pretty good simulation, I think.
But I take it it's not like Richard Burns Rally style insanity.
I mean, it sort of is and it isn't at the same time, in a weird
Right.
way. I don't know. I don't know enough about Richard Burns to, make enough comparisons. I mean, there's no OS map on screen. But,
No.
I mean, you were talking about that there is a bit of a flame war going on between the...
Well, yeah, a bunch of people in comment threads, half the people seem to be saying that it's not hardcore enough because they're all obsessed with Richard Burns, and then the other half of people are like, this is hardcore enough, you're just going in a slightly different direction than Richard Burns.
Yeah.
It's like those people who are used to that don't actually know what it's like driving a car because they're so used to that specific way of simulating. They can't understand a slightly different way of simulating or whatever.
So most of those complaints are about the model, more than the actual structure? Or...
Yeah, it seems like it. I mean, of course they're obsessed with the model. And then the other half of the comments are all obsessed about force feedback on steering wheels, which apparently isn't particularly good at the moment, but obviously you have to get that right.
Yeah, and it's early access. So,
Yes, and they've got a long way to go.
I don't think they've got that wrong in any of the previous entries. They added it in fine for Dirt 3 and stuff like that, so I would expect that will be okay.
Yes, but it's how far do they go with it, though? Because just making generic force feedback is probably not that difficult, but making, complicated, more accurate force feedback is a lot more effort.
If they're really going to target proper simulation gameplay, and it kind of feels like they are, then it would be a bit of a misstep for them not to do it. I suppose the other weird constraint to that is if they're coming at it from the approach, well, yes, it's early access on PC right now, but if there's going to be a console version of it, is it actually high up on their...
Well, they haven't suggested that there is going to be.
No, they haven't, but, it would be surprising if they didn't, if I'm honest, but there isn't really a decent wheel for Xbone or PS4. I don't think.
Wouldn't have thought so. Not yet, anyway.
No,
because there's no reason to really.
No.
Well,
I mean, there's Forza 5.
You got Forza 5, Forza Horizon 2 that would greatly benefit from them, and PS4. Yes, there's probably nothing on PS4 that warrants one.
Gran Turismo hasn't come out.
Yeah, until GT7 or whatever it will be comes out, then however long that will be, then there's not a great deal of point of having a PS4 wheel. And Forza 6 comes out this year, so they're building up a little library of stuff that a wheel could benefit from.
So come on then, what's the verdict from the two of you on what there is right now?
I ended up, you'll be able to watch this in the video. I ended up coming round to it. It's like it hit me pretty hard.
I expected
that coming into it. It was like a slap in the face of like, hey, you've been playing shit racing games, for like, or not realistic racing games, or things that are easy to control a controller. And it's like, here, have this. Get a face full of trees.
Yeah.
And I found it really difficult to adjust. But it ended up being, once you get into it and you kind of see what it's doing, the way that it approaches championships as being actually kind of a lot like Rally, both in terms of the timing and in terms of how it's laid out and how you basically commit to the run, which is kind of nice to go back to. Like, there's no rewinds, there's no even restarting. Zach was saying has a penalty.
Yeah, you get a bonus at the end of an event, which is basically like however many stages. You get a bonus at the end if you don't restart, and then every time you do restart, it knocks some off that money.
So there's an incentive to do it properly. I would be surprised if you took a restart, it would actually you're going to get a second penalty or something like that. So you could try. I don't think a
second is enough because
you could try and avoid a big problem by doing a whole stage again and taking a little time off, maybe. But
no, I think the money sort of the trouble with it is at the moment in early access is that the career mode is sort of really simplified and it's not. The structure doesn't really make sense because it's like you earn money to unlock cars, but there's not really enough different things to do to keep you doing that to make you earn enough money to unlock the cars. But then if you just want to play the game, you just go into the custom events and then you can play while they're tracking any car anyway.
It sounds like something they could refine though, because that's effectively the structure of Grid.
Yeah.
The management of your team.
It just seems like. Well, I think my problem with it is that the career mode isn't really a career. It's just like you can upgrade each car slightly by driving it for longer, and then the more time you drive overall upgrades your team slightly, and so you can repair faster or whatever. But there's not really much structure to the actual layout of the events and stuff because it's there's basically 5 difficulty levels. And you start off on the easiest one, and then you just
which, by the way, isn't that easy.
Which is fucking difficult.
Yeah.
So you go into that and you do the career championship events, which is basically 4 stages from each of the 3 different environments that are in the game at the moment. And then if you come 3rd or better at that point, you basically move up to the next difficulty. And now it's 6 stages in each of those 3 environments. And if you come 3rd in that, you move up to the next difficulty. And it's that's not really... Because it's not reliant on, what type of car or whatever. It's if you pick a 1960s car, all the opponents are still in that class. But that doesn't... It's not... The difficulty isn't tied to what car you're driving. It's just tied to how well you've done in the past.
Oh, interesting.
So if you go in with a 2010 car and then you level up to maximum and then start driving a 1960s car, you might suck, but you're not actually going to be in the 1960s version of easy. You'll still be in the professional category. The times will still be. It's not really based on cars, which is why it seems weird that you're earning money to unlock the cars. It's I would have preferred it if you start in the Mini. Have my rank in the Mini go up so I can earn more money because I'm doing better in the Mini. But then when I buy a new car, I start in shit again because I'm having to learn this new car.
Yeah, I think that makes sense. Because the cars, we tried a couple of cars and they handled very differently.
Well, we only tried four-wheel drive ones as well. We didn't actually do any of the rear or front wheels.
That's true. But we tried an Audi Quattro and a modern 2012 was it 2012 Fiesta, wasn't it? Or they handled so differently. Admittedly, we did it on different tracks as well.
Yeah,
so
we were
I guess,
also on tarmac.
Crap. I guess we can't actually really tell, but the experience was very different. So I don't know. I kind of hoped that different cars would feel very different, which is something that the old games used to do really well, and the newer games that you couldn't bloody tell the difference between most of the cars.
Even back in like Colin McRae 4. I always preferred the Lancer to the Subaru because it was actually different.
Yeah, I was always a Focus driver in those games. I don't know, something about it felt good.
Yeah, and it has all the standard like customizing your spring weight or whatever, all the standard rally kind of setup stuff and repairs.
Oh yeah, but that's even more hardcore than normal, isn't it? Because they've ditched the whole you can adjust this in steps. It's now like sliding scales.
Well. There is some of them.
Some of them have more steppy than others, as they probably should be. But there's a lot more fine-grained control over setup than before. And
if you have the advanced setup unlocked for the car, you can go into even more detail, do even more precision.
Yeah, you were telling me that apparently you can get like you have that whole short gear ratio thing, but if you unlock super advanced stuff, you can start editing each gear individually, like you can in Forza tuning.
Nice. And the same applies for like. When you just have your suspension setting where you're like soft or firm, if you have advanced, you can go to that and be like, how much force do I actually want it until it starts compressing? Like you can set it like in pounds, and I'm like, that's really not. You can't do that by logic. You can't just intuit that. You can't be like, I think I need about 70 pounds of force. You actually have to drive it and see, I guess, to actually work that kind of thing out.
One thing we didn't see, actually, do you still get like other cars on the rally stage?
I don't think you do.
Because they're pretty close. In fairness, in Dirt 3, it's kind of...
too close together.
Yeah, it's not realistically simulated. It's like, it's nice that they're on the track, but everyone's really quite close to each other. It's like there's like a 20-second window between each car or something.
Yeah, it's like I don't think you do at the moment. I mean, a lot of people in the suggestions threads have been saying that...
If that's probably only 10, actually, thinking about it.
A lot of people in the suggestions threads have been saying that they want that. But if not, like, literally you can catch up to the car in front, but just make it so like it's a random event where sometimes there'll be a really slow or broken down car that you have to go around.
Yeah, that'd be cool.
Just because they're there.
I mean, the Dirt games have all done that.
Yeah.
And that's cool when you see it. Like, there's some... I mean, it's a bit weird that your co-driver in those games kind of has a little bit of extrasensory perception. It's all like, there's a crash up ahead. And it's like, how do they get told over their radio?
I think they probably do, don't they, in actual rally? Because they're quite dangerous that way. They have all their helicopters and shit following them all the time, don't they?
Sometimes, yeah. So, yeah, I don't know how you'd pull that off, but yeah. And the pace notes are good as well. You were telling me about the detail they've gone to record them. Apparently,
they have a guy on their team who's actually a co-driver for rally, and he does rally stages.
Yeah.
And then when they were doing the pace notes for this, they had him in a D-box chair. So the game, it was transmitting the simulated physics to his D-box chair, which was shifting him around while he was reading the pace notes. So when he sounds weird because you're going really fast, that's because he felt like he was going really fast all around the corner, like the actual force jiggling him around.
And it sounds like they've recorded it over... Yeah, it sounds like they've recorded it over a proper radio mic as well, so you get some of the sort of puffy, that's not the right word.
Fuzzy.
Puffy, I guess, where you...
That's such a different word. Poof or puff?
Puff is probably better. I don't know. Where you sort of... Where F noises go a bit blowy on the mic, stuff like that, like and stuff like that.
Yeah.
It sounds good. It really does sound good. And because they've got the whole pace notes recorded, each instruction sounds natural.
Yeah, it's individualized.
But, it's no Sega Rally, like, hard left into 4 right. Easy left.
So is it the gears and everything? Like, which style is it? And is that the style?
It's the classic
angle.
Yeah, it's the sort of the classic 6-1, but it's not based on gear numbers anymore. I don't think it has been for a while.
No.
Yeah,
but
it confused me initially when now there's no more tight hairpins. They're called acutes now. Which confused me because I was like, acute. How much angle is that? Is that more than 90 or less than 90? Oh shit! And then I crashed. And I was like, okay, that's more than 90.
I guess I'm not. The one thing I'm not 100% sure on with the pace notes is I'm not sure about the on-screen representation of them. It doesn't really fit with the aesthetic of the rest of the game, but they do look a little bit more like notes.
Mm.
the way they pop up, they look a bit scribbled, for instance.
Yeah.
And, they're color-coded still, and, when they say don't cut, for instance, they'll put a little DC in the corner of the symbol to remind you on screen.
That's kind of
cool. Things like that. But I don't know, I'm not entirely sure. The problem is it's such a clash with the rest of the clean aesthetic of the rest of the game.
I guess.
But,
yeah. But then I think if it was just like really clean symbols, that would look weird as well.
Yeah, it's a difficult one. Maybe it's the color coding that throws me, in terms of look. I mean, don't get me wrong, the color coding is useful, but your paste notes, if scribbled, probably wouldn't be using a color ballpoint pen or.
Well, they would. That'd be fancy.
Yeah.
Get a five switcher.
Just everything's highlighted.
So yeah, that is in early access.
It's promising.
And they've set up some kind of schedule of their content releases over the year, and then it's supposedly going to come out towards the end of the year, for real.
Yep.
Supposedly.
So you guys both play with... Did you play it with the wheel, or is it all...
No, we played it with a 360 controller.
360 controller.
Zach's doing his normal thing, which is to be a keyboard maniac.
Yep.
You're playing it with a keyboard?
It's no problem. I was much better with the keyboard.
It's how he always does it.
I was always better with the keyboard on Commodore Cray 4.
Yeah.
That's true. Oh,
it's a little more tricky in this one. It's like it's like you're constantly jiggling your fingers around. You've got constant little inputs because obviously in the keyboard it's more digital, and even on the gamepad I was constantly feathering throttle and stuff, which may maybe not be necessary. I don't know. It's just how I do it.
Well, yeah, and we talk about this on the video, but it's like it feels like the Forza games have this option for steering, which they have like normal mode and simulation mode, and normal mode effectively dampens your inputs slightly.
Yeah.
So if you jam left on the controller, it doesn't immediately simulate to the driver that they just yanked the steering wheel full to left lock or whatever.
Totally
it sort of
flip your car over immediately.
Yeah, he sort of eases it towards the left, which is kind of useful because it means you can sort of feather turns, but if you actually do want to turn the wheel suddenly, you kind of can't because the game stops you from doing it. It doesn't feel... where simulation mode basically unlocks that, and it maps it more closally.
Okay.
It feels like felt like the Colin. I was about to call it the Colin McRae game. It's not a Colin McRae game, but the Dirt game, Dirt Rally, is in simulation mode, and that what you're doing feels a bit more.
I mean, we didn't mess with the actual controller setup. We just went with whatever the defaults are, and there are sort of. I think there's like controller linearity or whatever, so it's like how directly it's mapped or whatever.
Yeah.
To your actual stick,
which would be good. And they've done that stuff in the past. It would be dumb of them to take that out.
Yeah.
So looks-wise, I thought it looked good. It's not mind-blowing.
No.
Graphically, it's still running, I think, the same version of Ego Engine that they've been running for a while. But sticking it in Ultra mode did make my system struggle a bit. But in fairness, we haven't tried it in Ultra mode without recording.
Right.
We did try it after the video after we did the video, we tried it again, at least in the settings we did the video at, and it ran a lot better without our recording setup running.
Yeah.
Okay.
But so it seemed to handle it. We were getting plus 60 frames once we took the recording solution out of the picture.
Yeah.
On my machine, which is, I guess, mid-spec by today's standards. Mid to low spec now, I guess.
And the most important thing of all, it has reasonably good weather effects on the windscreen.
Yeah,
they're not as good as Colin Cray 4 still, I don't think.
It's still missing the sort of streaky effect you get when a windscreen wiper actually moves, but the actual rain hitting the screen looks kind of nice.
Yeah.
Just the way it clears doesn't seem quite so good. But it's getting there. Yeah, there's one to watch, definitely. Although we've been saying it properly, like Dirt Rally, like Dirt is the name and then Rally is the thing, but it's like it's Dirt Rally. Like if you just say it like that, then it doesn't sound like such a cool name, does it? Like it's the Dirt Rally.
The Dirt Rally. Yeah. So should I go out and how much is it for like the early access? Did you guys both buy it?
22 to 4, I don't remember. It's still 10% off at the moment.
So you immediately bought those? Both of you? Yeah.
No, Zach has. I haven't. But...
Apparently, the price is going to go up during the early access period, so it probably will release at more of like 30, I would imagine.
Yeah.
Okay. Well,
it's a good way of rewarding.
And also, if you want the achievement for playing during early access, oh no, there's a Steam achievement.
Oh, that's filthy. That's a bit. Oh, I'm not sure I like that.
No, apparently other people will agree with you.
Yeah.
So, put up your video. I want to see it, and then in that form, and then I shall probably give that a try for sure.
Yeah.
I mean, obviously,
it's overdue.
It is
a
overdue.
game like this.
Yeah. Give it a go. Cool. What else you been playing, man?
Well,
both
it's
of you.
Kerbal, of course.
Kerbal.
Yep.
Kerbal, which is
that
out.
Actually came out.
Kerbal 1.02.
What's new in Kerbal?
Well, the important thing about it was the aerodynamics, which basically fucked everything up. Which actually made it kind of interesting for me to play. Because it was like, I started a new career or whatever in career mode, which is actually really difficult, as I may have previously discussed. Like, the way you have to manage your funds is the main issue. But and obviously you are unlocking the parts, so you have a really limited selection of parts to work with. But the new aerodynamic model basically makes a lot of things not work the way they used to, and then if you've become used to that, you're like, oh shit, now I actually have to think again. I can't just do the same thing I've always done and have it work, because it's actually different now. It's actually pretty cool. I mean, the first thing I did was build the classic rocket that everyone always builds, where it's like command pod, and then just that standard solid fuel booster, the long one, underneath it. So I built that, but that doesn't work any longer, because the solid fuel booster is actually so powerful with that little weight attached to it that it goes too fast, and then it overheats and explodes.
Right.
So I was like, oh, well, I guess you can't do that any longer.
Which is annoying, because it means the Black Lotus design.
Rob's Death Blossom ships
are
no longer viable. You can't just put infinite engines on and just punch it.
Yeah, just have it literally punch itself into orbit.
Damn it. How do you make a moon rocket now? It's hard enough already to get a decent payload to orbit.
Yes, it got a lot more tricky. And airplanes as well. I was never that great at planes, but now I think they've actually sort of forgotten to balance the contracts to the new aerodynamics in some ways, because there's these contract missions you get where it's like perform a visual survey of a specific area on Kerbin. Well, they start with, in the early missions it's Kerbin, but then it's like the moon or whatever. But when you're doing them on a planet with atmosphere, obviously you think, oh, okay, do that with a plane. But I don't think they've balanced the heights correctly, because it's like I picked up in a supposedly easy mission early on where it was you only had to survey one place, and it was like, take a visual survey above 16,800 meters. And I was like, well, that sounds okay. I can probably do that. But then I discovered that because of the way the new aerodynamics works, like the normal jet engines, the first ones you get, like quite early in the tech tree, they no longer operate above 15,000 meters because they just get air starved because of the difference in the way the like aerodynamic density and the way the air goes into the air vents or intakes or whatever. So like you actually can't fly the basic jet engine that high any longer. I was like, well shit, now I'm screwed. So I ended up having to put a rocket engine on it and like fly horizontally at 15,000 feet and then just pull up and rocket it for that last 1,800. So yeah, sort of annoying. I think they might need to rebalance those early missions to make them actually possible to do. I mean, you could theoretically do it by like launching a rocket and then deorbiting in precisely the right place.
I guess.
Right.
Just bomb onto the point.
That'd be a bit awkward though. But yeah, and then obviously the aerodynamics effects, like they've redone all the lift dynamics and stuff. So planes are easier to make function, but maybe not to do much useful with. Like you can make a plane that flies and stays reasonably stable and maneuvers, and you can land it again. But to actually like even think about going towards orbit, that's going to be a lot more of a problem, I suspect.
Like
You're going to need all the advanced jet engines. And then, obviously, re-entry is a serious problem now. You actually you can't just launch straight up and straight down, because when you come straight down, you just burn up really quickly now. You have to come in at a super low angle and use as much of the atmosphere as possible to gradually slow you down, and have ablative heat shields and stuff that burn away, which is pretty cool.
You have some kind of calculator to work out that angle you need to, because in real life that's a really quite a precise angle, isn't it?
Yeah, they don't have like atmosphere bouncing, luckily.
Right.
That still isn't in. And actually, like the way Kerbin's atmosphere is, it's so super thin at the top, it's barely noticeable until you're like way into it.
Right.
So you have like quite a long period where you're gradually slowing, but you're still like actually quite deep in the atmosphere, and then you kind of hit the wall, and then there's a period of burning, and then you slow down really quickly after that.
Right.
So that's pretty nice. And yeah, so there's the new heat shield parts. There's the new procedural fairings, which are awesome. Like, you can actually build proper aerodynamical fairings around your payloads, so your ship looks significantly less dumb.
That's nice.
And I actually didn't even realise, but it's super awesome where you place the bottom fairing part, and then you basically like move the circle in and out, like the radius of the fairing, and then move it up and down, and then click to place another node, and then you like build an actual enclosure all the way around whatever you put in the middle.
Variable width sock.
Yeah, you can put that around it, and then obviously when you go to orbit, it breaks apart or whatever. But I didn't realise until like the last rocket I built, where you can actually have those fairings end at the top and bottom differently. So like you can have the bottom, instead of the top of the fairing just coming to a point, you can actually have it link back onto another straight section. So like you can have a fairing close around something that's in between two cylinders and have the top of the fairing smoothly link back into the cylinder above it, which is actually really cool, because it means you can like have another section with another nose cone and then have a fairing in the middle or something, which is pretty neat. It's pretty awesome. Fairings.
And you need all these fairings and nose cones.
Yes, you need to reduce the aerodynamic.
So you can't just have the booster, the fuel tanks just be round at the top anymore.
No,
you have to actually put the little cones on now.
Yes.
That's cool, because it was always dumb that it cost extra money or whatever, or it put extra weight on, and it made your rocket look like an actual rocket, but there was no actual point at all.
Yes, it just made it worse.
Yeah.
It's not
now
makes it works.
Good. Excellent.
Yeah, so I was playing in the career mode, and obviously I think it was still in the beta patch when they significantly upgraded the contract system to have those more complicated contracts. And I hadn't really seen that, because I hadn't really played it much in the beta version, but those are pretty decent. There's a lot more, there's contracts for where it's put a satellite in a specific orbit. So you actually have to, it shows you the orbit that they want on the map, and then it's you have to get to that orbit within a certain variation of however many % out, and then it says, now you're in the right orbit, now you leave the satellite there. So it gives you a reason to actually launch satellites, I guess, rather than just no reason. I mean, I guess you technically don't have to keep them there for more than 10 seconds, because that's how long it takes to register. It's maintain stability for 10 seconds, and then whatever, just fly away again. And there's also a lot of missions of ferry tourists, where it's this tourist wants to orbit the moon. But it's well, that's a real pain in the ass.
Yeah,
I haven't done many of them. I've done the ones that are orbit Kerbin, because that's relatively easy. And it's just that's just a way to get money at that point. It's just fly up, fly around, fly down, and then you get it. Because I can do that, no problem.
Have they made Kerbin slightly more interesting place to look at?
No, not really. It's still just the green.
There's just this space station, and the rest of it is Green Town.
Yeah, basically.
Do they live? Do you reckon the Kerbals live underground?
Well, there was talk at one point that they were going to put cities in at some point, but that didn't happen for one way. We'll see, I guess. And then they also included the option to mine resources, so you can use a mining drill to extract mysterious ore that you can convert into fuel if you have a fuel conversion facility. So you can actually mine off asteroids and then use that to refuel ships that way.
Right. That's kind of cool.
Yeah.
Is that actually viable?
I don't really know. I haven't really. Well, I'm not that. I haven't got to that point in my career, obviously, and I only had a quick look at it in Sandbox because I was thinking like even Kerbin, the main planet, has some amount of ore on it, and I was like, maybe you could save money by just mining next to the runway, mine the shitty amount of ore that's there, and then just put that into your rocket. Save money on fuel.
Why not have a giant strip mine right next to the space center? I mean, it makes sense.
Yeah, exactly. But the mining is like right at the end of the tech tree, so you're not going to get that until well late into the career, regardless.
Right.
So it's probably not worth it until you're mining like really high amounts of ore for like deep space missions or whatever.
Mm.
And obviously for the ore, there's like new satellite parts for like scanning. Where you can there's like one antenna that does like a global scan that's not very accurate, and then there's like another antenna which brings up a little UI box which shows you the terrain that's currently under you as you orbit, and it shows how dense the ore is there. And then there's like a third scanner that you can attach to probes that have landed to enhance the detail of the other two scans. So yeah, there's quite a complicated system of scanning. Not that complicated. I mean, like the one that does the overall planet scan, it only works if you put it into a polar orbit, which is theoretically realistic, except as soon as you get to a polar orbit, it just works. It doesn't take time to actually scan as it goes through the polar and the planet rotates or whatever.
You'd have to wait, right? Okay.
Which arguably is just like, that's
convenience.
Just... Yeah, convenience for you. Because it's like, once you get into a polar orbit, all you would have to do is wait, if it was realistic.
I'm struggling to remember at this point. Like, I came across an article, I think since the last podcast, about someone making the case for scanning being a skill in that the player has to take part in,
right? Yeah.
Rather than just upgrading a scanner and it's like, oh hey, you can see everything in this system now,
right?
The case for how like scanning should be a mechanic in the game that you can become better at or worse at, rather than you can get better tools to help you with it, but not ones that trivialize it and stuff like that. A bit like I guess Eve is the example of that. I guess because you still have to be quite involved in scanning, right?
Well, in some cases, yeah. I mean, I presumably, if that you're talking about Kerbal, you'd be referring to like the ground scanning station, like actually detecting like the asteroids. Because at the moment, it's just like once you level up your ground station enough, you just see the asteroids and then you can track them.
Sure.
Presumably, in real life, that's a lot more effort because you're having to like predict the motion or whatever.
Yeah, and I guess in some games, like I guess it's already like I guess. You could make the assumption that hey, like the rest of the crew on my ship are doing this,
yes,
right?
Doing the complicated bit.
Yeah.
You just say what you want to see, and then they point you at it.
They find it, yeah.
So yeah, I mean, I think it's pretty. All these new things are making it more interesting for me. I still think it's the same problem as before, where it's just like the new aerodynamics because they apply to every part of the game. It just makes it even harder for new people, even in Sandbox, because it's just like, I mean, you can, if you want to, just like I think you can turn the re-entry heating off. I mean, the new aerodynamics is always the new aerodynamics, of course, because that's just how it works.
The whole physics model is based on it.
Yeah, but you can turn the heating off, I think, so you won't get the re-entry damage. Or you can turn it up if you want to make it even more difficult.
I guess the risk is if they go too far with this stuff, or at least don't let it make it inflexible enough, that some of the craziest shit that has gone down over the years becomes less and less possible.
Yeah, maybe. I mean, in some ways,
you can still make Kerbal cannons.
You can probably still do that, yeah. I mean, there are certain things that have sort of encroached into the game that are sort of like mods that have made it easier. Like the idea now that if you have a Kerbal who's a pilot, as they level up, they can help control the ship more directly. Like you can set them to point retrograde or prograde, and they do it continuously. So if you're decelerating from orbit and you want your heat shield always pointing downwards but in the direction that you're flying, you can set them to always point retrograde, and then it tracks as you slow down, so it always points in the direction that your heat shield is in, basically.
That's clever.
And then you can do that with robotics as well. If you have probe cores, certain levels of that get that ability as well. And then all the other various... You can eventually, if they level up enough, you can get them to hold in the direction of maneuver. So if you set up a maneuver node and plot out a maneuver, you can have them hold in the correct direction while you're doing the burn, which is also helpful, obviously. So there are those kind of... That, like, sort of makes it easier in some ways. So there are certain things which have been introduced that do make it easier, but these other parts do make it harder as well.
Yeah.
It's still a bit of a tricky one. I think the standard procedure is a bit weird that it's the same problem that I think I mentioned before, that like career mode sounds like where you should go if you're a new person, but it's not. If you're a new player, you need to go to Sandbox and just fuck around for ages until you get an idea of how to even do most of the stuff. Because although career mode has the progression of unlocking the ship parts and stuff, that because it's still limiting you in your options, it actually still makes it difficult. Rather than you'd think that your limited options would allow you to focus on those parts and have a better understanding, it's not really balanced quite that well to such a smooth curve. It's still quite a steep curve at the start.
Is effectively the difficulty of the game fairly static?
Yeah,
is what you're saying.
Quite possibly, I would say so. And science mode is still... I mean, science mode is probably still the best mode for most people. Like, Sandbox is... So science mode has the elements of the progression, but without the risk, I suppose.
So they didn't end up, like, making career and science mode kind of the same thing, then?
Well, I mean, they are kind of the same thing, it's just without the money.
Right.
You still have to do the science.
You still have to do the science in career.
Yeah.
Okay. But science mode only just takes the money aspect out.
Yeah, it's just the science.
Okay.
I don't know if you can do contracts or not in science mode. I would imagine not. Because
presumably there's no payoff.
Yeah, there's no reason to do them.
But it might guide you to get more in ways to get more science. Maybe?
Yeah, possibly. I've been finding getting science quite difficult. Sort of quite... I hear that they changed the way the lab module works now, because the way the lab module used to work is it would just let you reset experiments, because a lot of them, you can only use them once, and then if you transmit the data, they can't...
They die.
Yeah, they just die. And then you could also use the lab to process the data to make it slightly more valuable if you were transmitting it. But I think they've changed... I hear that they've changed it now so that the lab module... If you feed it data from science experiments, it just generates more science over time, which some people are saying is incredibly overpowered. Like, you just, providing you can get one of those science modules into orbit, then you can just generate more science than you're ever going to need.
Right.
So maybe that needs balancing. I haven't got that yet. I probably won't use it anyway, because I like getting the reports. I like actually having the science reports from each individual like biome and stuff. Because that's sort of the challenge, rather than... It's like, just getting science is one thing, but like, having like a complete encyclopedia is the actual challenge.
It's like Pokedex.
Yeah, you want to get the science reports from each of the individual biomes on the moon or whatever.
For all 151 science ones.
Yeah, exactly. That's where the actual challenge is.
Science mon, got to research all.
So yeah, that's that. It's pretty awesome.
Let's
find me out, I guess.
Woo! Go forth.
Yep.
And Kerbal fly.
Make rockets that don't get to orbit.
And they explode even lower in the atmosphere.
Yeah, explode immediately.
Yeah.
Do you have a moon rocket design at this point? With all the new stuff?
I have one that can get a probe to the moon and land. I don't think it has enough fuel to get back yet, but we're like 2/3 of the way there. That was mainly because I didn't have enough science to unlock big enough engines. I've only just started getting the big engines.
Right, but if you're in sandbox mode, you'd have a design.
Yeah, probably.
Coolio. Been playing anything else? Is it Rob's turn or is it Zach's turn?
No, I'm still with Play War.
Okay. Yeah, carry on. Carry on, man.
Because there's another actual new game, or not an actual new game, a new game to me. It's actually quite an old game. Like, more than a year, maybe. No, well, maybe not a whole year. Most of a year.
Right.
Dungeon of the Endless.
Oh, yes. Yeah.
Apparently from the Endless universe. Because, like, Endless Legend and I forget what the other one's called. There's a third one. No, I don't remember.
Right.
They all have endless in the title.
Okay.
But apparently those all exist in the same universe, only, not really. It's just like a weird backstory thing.
Okay.
Apparently endless refers to like an actual, like, it's very like loosely even mentioned in Dungeons of the Endless, but apparently endless is like a species or whatever, or a progenitor race or something. Yeah. The Endless.
Right, yeah.
So yeah. I played that game. It's weird. It's an incredibly confusing thing to describe because it like combines ridiculous genres.
It's like a super hard strategy roguelike thing.
Well, it's like a roguelike type thing, apart from it's like the main thing that you're doing is sort of tower defense.
Okay.
Basically, you have your crystal thing, which is like your base. You have to protect the crystal. That's the thing that must not get hit, or must not die at least. It can get hit a bit. You're trying to protect that. You open doors to reveal rooms, and in those rooms there can be a major module point and some minor module points, or one or the other, or neither, depending on the layout of the room. And like on the major module points, you build resource harvesters basically to harvest one of the 3 resources, which are like food, science, and industry. And on the minor module points, you build basically tower defense turrets. And every time you open a door, that counts as a turn. And every time when you open the door, that can cause waves of enemies to spawn out of unpowered rooms. And as you go through, you collect dust, which allows your crystal to power more rooms. So you have to use the dust in an appropriate way to protect your crystal by powering up enough rooms with enough turrets. And then you move your heroes around to defend as well, so they can move into the different rooms while the enemies are coming during the active turn phase. And they have skills and stats and equipment. So yeah, it's quite complicated and bloody difficult. It's quite a lot like FDL in that respect. And it has a sort of similar thing to FDL of like, when you send someone to a room, they're just in the room. They're not in a specific place in the room or anything.
Right.
They're just there, and they automatically fight whatever comes into the room.
They do whatever they need to do in that room.
Yeah. So yeah, that's quite complicated and really kind of tricky.
Yeah, I've seen some stuff on it, and it looks difficult. And as you say, kind of difficult to describe.
I think my main problem with it in terms of difficulty so far has been that I've just been in the experimental phase, working out what is actually worth researching out of the tech tree.
Right, yeah.
And finding the precise balance between like how much industry, science, and food do you want to get, and how fast, and like what do you need to prioritize early in the game versus later, or whatever. So yeah, I've been working my way through that. I've won 1 run now out of 12.
Really?
But my problem is I always have catastrophic failure. It's mainly there was one time where I was doing really...
It's pretty much the nature of any roguelike, right? Any kind of failure is often catastrophic.
Well, I had one particularly bad one where I got further than I'd ever been, which is why this turned into a catastrophic failure. And there was a new type of enemy that had started spawning, and I hadn't realised what it did. Because what it does is it just runs up to you and explodes. But I'd been killing them fast enough that never happened.
Right.
Until 3 of them came at once. And then it just eliminated my entire team in one giant explosion. I was like, oh, fuck. Better look out for them in the future.
There's no way this is going to win now. This can rush the crystal on its own. But presumably a hero has to carry it or something.
Yeah, if everyone dies, it's game over. Yeah, and that's the end phase. Once you've discovered the exit, you have to pick up the crystal and have someone carry it to the exit, and they move really slow, obviously. And enemies infinitely spawn.
Oh, while you're moving it, it's kind of like a Left 4 Dead style rush phase.
Yeah. So obviously you use the person who has the highest speed stat.
Yep.
And then have everyone else try and protect them all, or really what I do is like have the guy with the highest speed stat carry the crystal, but then using the dust that I've collected during the phase, rearrange all my power so that they're like all the rooms up to the exit are powered, and all the rooms that can possibly spawn enemies next to the route are powered if possible. So it's like they can only come from behind me, and I'm very slightly faster than them.
Yeah.
That's my main tactic for getting out.
It's Quite funny. Outrun them sluggishly.
Yep. So yeah, that's quite a complicated and hard game. But it's a lot like FTL really in those elements. Trial and error.
In the sort of same draw as well.
Yeah.
Like, you're getting the same kick out of it.
Yeah, and you're still I still haven't really experimented with all the different turrets, and obviously I also haven't experimented with all the different heroes, because you have to find them in the dungeon, and then basically you find them in the dungeon, and then if you recruit them, you have to keep them alive for 3 floors, and then you can use them from the start of the game on subsequent runs.
So that's their form of like the ships almost.
Well, there's also the ships as well. Like you start in an escape pod, and then you can get, by doing certain things in the game, you get different escape pods that have different. Those are more like major modifiers, though. It's not so much like the ships in FDL, which are like starting. It's like these actually change the whole sort of flow of the game. Like the first one,
some of the ships in FDL do kind of do that
to some extent, yeah. But it's like the first pod that you unlock for basically winning the game once. It changes it so that in the normal one, once you've killed all the enemies, you just go back to full health on all your heroes, and then you're back in like planning phase. But
between turns,
between turns. But then in the first special pod, you don't get that auto heal, but using food to heal people is much cheaper. And instead of a lot of any items and a lot of the other items that would give you regen or other buffs, like equipment items, those are like replaced with like drugs. So it's like one use, or I don't know if it is one use, but presumably I would guess. I haven't actually tried it.
Some kind of item,
but a different kind of way. So it's like no regeneration and no auto heal, but healing is the main way to play then. So you're keeping people alive in a different way.
Okay, cool. So as the like replay ideas, at least, so you have to think wildly tactically different depending on your modifier.
Yeah, and then one of the other pods is like you can start with 4 people, whereas normally you can only start with 2. But those are the only 4 people you get.
Right.
But I think it says that they're like much more resilient, but your turrets are worse, so it makes it more about the heroes, and they get better item drops or whatever. I don't know. I didn't actually read that one out. But yeah, so it changes the game quite a lot with the starting shit.
Yeah, interesting. It's good. It's good to see them do that. Like, it's a good way. I suppose it's an easy way of adding to the replayability. It's just what those games need to have to survive effectively.
Yeah. So yeah, my 1 win out of 12 on what they call easy difficulty, which is actually normal difficulty.
Okay.
Because easy difficulty is called too easy. I haven't actually tried that. It's a bit, but if you're not playing it on normal, like it's like FTL. If you don't play it on normal, what the fuck are you doing?
You're not doing it right. Yeah.
Although then FTL introduced hard and fuck that all up.
But even so, normal mode's still pretty goddamn difficult in FTL.
But you have to do it because that's the real game.
Proper challenge.
Yeah, I wonder how easy too easy would actually be in dungeon. Because on the run where I did win, I think I found like maybe one of the more powerful turret options. But it's a difficult one to get going at the start because it's basically a turret where its power is dependent on how many extra science you have banked. So you kind of have to you have to research that immediately and then not research anything for quite a while to build up a stock of science so that those guns power up.
Okay, gotcha.
So that's you have to be careful in the early game, but it gets a bit easier later on once you've gone over that limit of science and you can actually start researching again, get some of the other things you need. So yeah, that's that. It's quite an awesome game.
Cool. Good to hear it. Good day, it's nice to have another. When this was a last year game, though, right? Yeah. It's good to effectively keep this roguelike train running, but in sort of new and interesting ways, rather than just everyone doing the same thing.
Yeah.
No more zombie survival games. Not that that really counts, I suppose.
No, those keep going by themselves.
Yeah.
I guess that was pretty much it. I looked in at Eve and didn't do anything. Used about Eve.
Cool. Rob?
All right, then. I'm trying to figure out where I should start with this, because I got quite the list as well. Well, let's stick with what the things I've been playing. Like, I did the finale in Forza Horizon 2 today. Zach watched me do that, which was like a 16-minute race across one lap around about 2/3 of the map, which was surprisingly easy.
And it wasn't much of a finale, really.
No, it was just like a race. Yeah,
it's just like, now you get a trophy, and now the game continues because you're only like 1/10 of the way for it.
Yeah, my championship completion rate at this point is still 8%. It's like, this game is massive. But now I'm suppose I'm at the point where I haven't even done all of the car classes. I don't think yet. I don't think I've done championships in all of the different car classes yet. So yeah, it's just insane how big that game is and how long it takes. But still all right. I think I was sort of thinking to myself, perhaps like a benchmark for how good a sort of open world racer is potentially is how long it takes before you start getting fed up of the music on the radio.
Right. Well, it depends on quality of the music as well as the quality of the game.
Yeah, to a point, because I'm now hitting that point where I think I'm quite fed up of the music. So it's like I've heard this song a million times already.
But can you do custom playlists?
Well, no, because custom playlists don't exist anymore.
That's all you need.
Everything's going backwards.
Well, that was the thing I used to do with a lot of racing games back in the 360. I'd link
they're perfect for
my
custom soundtracks.
Yeah.
Even on the original Xbox, you were ripping shit and putting them.
Yeah.
They're playing.
I was going through that incredibly tedious process of having to burn a CD.
Yeah.
And then ripping that to the Xbox hard. Yeah.
It's all right. Come on, DICE.
No.
Everyone's favourite developer.
Was it now Mary or whatever it is?
Yeah.
The race is now started.
Did that timing, perfect timing.
Yeah, it was pretty good.
Dude.
Or playing Burnout 3 to the Mona Lisa Overdrive from the Matrix. That was pretty awesome.
Oh, yeah.
I used to do it all the time. I used to have the 360 networked to my PC, so I'd just say, hey, just play anything that's on my PC, thanks. And that would make games like Ridge Racer a lot more bearable. And Project Gotham and all that stuff. Used to do it all the time. But you can't anymore. You just can't.
You just can't.
And it was I was getting a little bit annoyed as well because I started putting I suppose the channel I've listened to the least in that game is the sort of the classic FM, I suppose, classical music style station. So I've been putting that on, but that's slightly ruined by that radio compression problem I've talked about before. But
right, yeah.
So yeah, there's that. I might, given that that's how I feel about the music-y side. Now I've done everything, maybe it's time to give that a little bit of a rest.
Fair enough.
Probably end up going back to Forza 5, probably. That's my prediction.
Yeah, why not? Get a slightly different model going on, a bit more standard tracks and stuff.
Yeah. So played a bit more Rayman Legends as well, still ploughing through that. I'm over halfway through the teensy count, which means I've done about half of its content. Which means I'm actually most of the way through the new levels, but I think that game has most, if not all, of Origins in it.
Oh, right, okay, cool. Well, that's cool.
I thought it was just select levels at first, but no, it actually probably is the whole thing. So I can, although with slightly different mechanics from Origins by the sounds of it, by the looks of it, there are some things that I remember from the old Origins demos that aren't here. Like the thing that you could make all the lums, I think, dance or something, and while they were dancing, they were worth more. Yeah, like that's not there. So that incredibly catchy tune, dun, 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 dun. It sounds a bit like the Mario tune when I do it like that. Isn't there? But still, that's a lot of content. I'm still enjoying it. I'm definitely going to finish all the Legend content anyway. It was sort of let down a little bit in that, I think I may have mentioned this before, and it doesn't feel quite as varied as the new Mario games do. And it feels like a little bit like they're running out of ideas,
right,
as the game goes on. It's not nearly as inventive. Like with one of the worlds is much more based on sort of stealthy mechanics, I suppose, where you're not supposed to, don't go in the green light, you'll get shot. And that doesn't work quite so well, especially on this one sequence where it's like a typical, you're stuck on an elevator and there's a fight happening around you, and you've got to try and just survive the elevator ride. But there's also like these zones that are appearing as the lift descends, which you can't be in, otherwise you'll get shot. And it's like that's quite a trial and error sequence because you need to sort of remember where the zones are coming, so you don't have enough time to move out of the way and stuff like that. And it's so it has its problems like that. That whole world isn't its best, and it seems like every level has a I thought it was only going to be a select few at first, but it feels like now that every single level is going to have an invaded version, which basically means that they turn a part of the level into a bit of a speed gauntlet, where you've got to do it in like 40 seconds to get the max rank or something. So it'd be short little, again, a bit Meat Boy-esque speed runs, I suppose, which actually can be quite fun.
Yeah, cool.
Because of their short size and stuff like that.
Everyone likes a bit of Meat Boy anyway.
Yeah.
Style.
Still enjoy that game. Still recommend it.
Cool.
So, yeah, I'm going to carry on with that. Okay, other things I've sort of touched on, I suppose, briefly. I actually played a bit of Titanfall on PC again.
Wait, you tell me.
It was only like a brief bit of time. I sort of jumped into it quickly. Like, I had like an hour here, and I thought, just cock into this for a bit.
How many people were playing?
Here's the thing. This is the main reason I bring this up. You can still get into games just fine as long as you want to play attrition mode.
Wow. And why wouldn't you?
Because, it is clearly the best. And it's like, so on the PC version, there are worldwide, at the time I was playing, 1,600 people.
Okay.
Which isn't a massive number, but it's enough to get some good games going. 800 of those were in attrition. So I jumped into the variety pack, which is where I spent a bit of time on the Xbox version. Play every game mode on rotation, and now the season pack has been free for a while. All the DLC maps are in rotation as well. And there were 10 people in that playlist, of which 5 of them were like maximum generation players against the rest of us.
Okay.
So that was no fun at all. So I went back to attrition mode and had a great time.
Were there some actually crap people in there?
Yeah. It still seemed quite balanced in there, and I had a much better time. That game is still a lot of fun, and it's actually okay as long as you sort of don't care about, tactics. There is no tactics in Titanfall, really.
Well, that's why you play attrition, because like the point capturing mode, that's too much tactics.
I quite like it.
It works okay, it's just like it's too much. No one ever functionally really does it correctly.
Oh, that was the other thing I ended up... No, I think I played a couple of rounds of attrition and a couple of rounds of campaign to try and get a few more of those done.
Right. Yeah.
But because it's sort of on rotation and somewhat random what side you end up, it's hard to get them all, I guess. Because I don't think I've got the Titan frame unlocks yet. Which you can now get by just reaching a certain level, but, you unlock them permanently if you finish all of a campaign for one side.
Yeah.
But because you have no control of where in the campaign you're going to go, it's a bit awkward to try and do. So one of the things they changed, not really for the better. That stuff. But yeah, Titanfall still kind of cool. But I still really struggle to think where they will go with that for Titanfall 2.
This is just it.
Whatever.
Isn't it?
It's like, it's neat, but then they need to make it more about the players than about, random AI shit going on.
Oh, no.
Hey, we didn't talk about how the hilarious Deus Ex reaction to the Black Ops 3 reveal video.
Oh, I suppose, yeah.
That was sort of funny. Especially with the cat. That was my favorite thing. The cat looking at the good, like, golden cat looking at the screen from Deus Ex and just looking straight at the... Do you see that one?
No.
Genius. Yeah. It's just... they were just tweeting at the Call of Duty account, basically, and having fun. Because it pretty much looks like the exact plot of, like... Because there's no gameplay or anything. It's just like a... I don't think...
Well, there might be, like, camera shots of, like, things going on during gameplay, maybe, but it was more the campaign trailer. But which is making it sound real dumb. It's like, it's kind of the theme of the last game, really, in that, you know, it's a war on technology by the sounds of it.
Right.
And that's the good side. Whereas the last game was kind of like abuse of technology, I suppose. This side sounds like, yeah, you know what? We've gone too far of technology. Let's stop being technological.
It's kind of weird how the last game isn't the last game in the Black Ops series, is it? It's the last game in the... It's a different...
Oh, that's what I meant. Sorry, when I said the last game, I know.
That's the last Call of Duty game, but it's a bit strange how similar the Treyarch one seems in terms of tone compared to one that...
Advanced Warfare, yeah.
Yeah, Advanced Warfare, which was someone else.
Yes.
Because they must have been... Different. All these 3 streams must be in development in parallel, so they must be... I don't know. I wonder if they talk to each other, even.
I think they must talk a little bit to each other, because I bet there are some studios that sort of cross over to work on various parts of each game. But I think in a way Activision sort of encourages them to compete with each other.
I guess that's right, yeah.
So they all try and out-innovate each other, I suppose, is the idea. Because by the looks of it, Black Ops 3 actually plays, more like 2, and that doesn't look like they're going down the mobility route. Although it did seem to show some stuff about wall running. Mm-hmm. So maybe they're going halfway down that route, but not in the same way as the suit does in Advanced Warfare.
Right, yeah.
Like they're Titanfalling it a little. But we'll see. We'll see how that goes. I really enjoyed Black Ops and Black Ops 2, so... Treyarch have been doing pretty well with the series, so let's see how they stack up. The weirdest thing I saw about when that trailer came out actually was like how many people were all like, I think that Paint It Black song kind of ruins it.
Right.
That was what they were saying. I'm not sure I care. It seemed like the Black Ops series always had that weird sort of musical thing, didn't they? With
well, because it was originally set in the 60s and stuff. Well,
Vietnam-y, wasn't it? But they've always had missions, haven't they? I think in both. Well, I don't know. I actually can't remember what they did in Black Ops 2, but they've always had missions, I think, in them where they've thrown in a random track, haven't they? Like in a mission, sort of haphazardly.
Sure.
So we'll see.
Anyway,
but they had Back in Black, I think, for like their earlier stuff, which made a bit more sense.
So Titanfall, and
I also played Plants vs Zombies on the PC.
Oh yeah,
Modern Warfare, just to see what that was like. Yeah, that's still good. Plays pretty well. Although the balance has shifted in favour of long-range characters because of your ability to aim.
Mm-hmm.
As you would expect. But that's still a great game, even on PC. Highly recommend. Go get it, you bastards. So let's talk new stuff I've been playing.
Not news.
No, just new stuff. Shit.
You made the wrong noise. Dan's
Trumpets.
making the wrong noise.
That was the trumpets, and I haven't even started talking about the games.
We better hurry up then.
Oh god.
Or we better continue to go at the same rate because we don't actually care. Or I don't.
Zach doesn't care. The end.
Alright, I'm going to say the name of a game to you. This one's for Dan, because Zach already knows this one.
Oh, okay.
And I want you to tell me, just by me saying the name of the game, what my opinion of it is. And that may give you a clue, actually, just me saying that. PoolNationFX.
Pool Nation. POOL.
Yep. FX.
FX.
Whatever that means.
Like FX, like Pinball FX.
I guess.
Oh, I don't know, dude. Maybe you love it. I seem to like you like pinball games. Maybe this is a pool version.
Well, this was a game of gold. It's currently still a game of gold. It is the first game I have played using the Unreal Engine 4.
Pool Nation.
And
it's a nation for the swimming pool owners. I don't know.
All right, let me put it to you this way. Recently, you've talked about this before, that, I tend to give a lot of games a fair shake, or I tend to play them probably a lot more than I should, even if I'm a bit down on them.
It's whatever you want to do, man.
Yeah, I don't know. I kind of like doing it for sort of. What? Maybe I am a bit of a masochist when it comes to this stuff. I don't know.
You're doing it for journalism.
Yeah, I like to think it gives me a bit of perspective, because when a good thing or an amazing thing does come around,
you appreciate it all the more.
Exactly, sitting through chaff makes the bright shine brighter.
It tastes nicer.
Yeah. I like my meaty cereal.
Okay, so this is an example of chaff, is it? At least
So
you have
much
chaff.
This is chaff-tastic. Oh, God. So the first thing that you have to put up with is the obscene boot-up time.
What even is this a pool game? I'm so confused.
It is actually pool, like virtual pool from the days of yore. It is not snooker, but pool. I mean, I say the days of yore because, like, virtual pool, that was the game, right? And it was a good one.
Sure.
Back in the old PC heyday.
It's the sound of the PC heyday.
Doom and Duke Nukem and virtual pool and...
Turn into a bird.
Better land these PCs together with parallel ports and what have you. Or serial ports, all that shit.
Okay.
This game makes me remember Virtual Pool quite clearly for the sort of, I don't know, kind of big deal that it sort of was back in the day. It was a good simulation of pool, and this is physically, I suppose, still a good simulation of pool, but it controls like garbage. It's way too twitchy to sort of aim up a shot. The AI is unbelievably brilliant at the easiest difficulty setting, giving you no chance to learn the game whatsoever.
Oh dear!
Like some games, they were just like they'll just finish the table without giving you a chance to actually play. It's too good. The loading time, the loading times, it's unbelievable. It took well over 5 minutes, I think, for the game to load from just pushing the button in the Xbox dash to it getting to a menu you can control. It's an insane amount of time.
So evidently Microsoft got rid of that rule that they had about getting to a start screen within a certain period of time.
The game has to become technically responsive. So that's like, and the same rule applies on iOS, for instance. So as long as the game is sort of takes over and is launched into a sort of, I don't know, starting state, you can spend as much time as you want showing like intro logos and stuff like that. This game shows a loading bar.
Okay.
And at first I thought that was just it was just a style choice, and then I realised a bit of the bar had changed, and it's like, oh shit, that's a loading bar, and it's like moved like 2 pixels. It's incredible just how long it takes. You should check this game out for 15 gigs of loading bar. It's 15 gigs for a pool game.
What's going on there?
Like, the music is terrible as well. It's like bunch it jazz in places.
Bunch it jazz. The best kind. Oh dear,
So
Miles Davis was famous for bunch it jazz.
Yeah. I mean, even the menu design is a poorly laid out version of an EA Sports style menu presented in neon. It's just, but like,
how can you have a poorly laid out version of an EA Sports menu?
I know.
They're all poorly laid out.
Somehow they've done it worse. I'll give them their due in that the actual when you finally get to see a pool table, it's a pretty well modelled pool table. Like those balls are well round, and there's some nice specular lighting going on them, and the tables have made like some of the tables have like a two-tone paint rim on it, and it shimmers just nice, a bit of sparkle in there, good texture detail all around. And then weirdly, that extends to the area around the pool table, which seems way too well modelled. It's like you're in some sort of holiday resort bar or something with like other tables there, and there's like palm trees outside, sort of blowing in the wind. And,
maybe whoever it was trying to get like experience that he could then use on an actual game.
Yeah, I don't know,
in modelling environments, and he was like, I don't care about the table. I'm just gonna make a cool looking hotel thing.
Well, you see, this would be much better if you like, because it's disembodied cues, a bit like how Virtual Pool was. It would be better if they had like people like meandering around the tables and stuff. So this hotel resort didn't feel so much like, I don't know, some sort of apocalypse had happened where disembodied cues live on. It's
That's such an amazing world to inhabit. Nothing but disembodied pool cues floating around playing pool for no reason.
I mean, I don't do this with many games, but I have played this for precisely 1 hour, and I had enough. I just couldn't.
Wow, that's an accomplishment for that game.
I thoroughly dislike it, and to the point where even like Gnome was in the same room as me whilst I was playing some of it, and even she was just like, "This looks awful," and I'm like, "Yeah." I mean, for once, it really is. I can't think of a good thing to say about it. It's like, apart from the visuals being quite nice.
Cool. Well, maybe make an hilarious video about it. Or not. Never play it again.
Well, yeah, we don't have a way of recording off the Xbox, I suppose.
Okay,
but
sod it then.
Yeah.
Right. That's that.
PoolNationFX. I played one game online, and I'm not sure I was playing against a human because it took its shots very fast, which is weird because it's supposed to be an online game, and there was no sound. The sound all stopped. It's a quality product, but it's free, so it's the right price.
Right.
Man.
Anything else?
Man.
Because that is terrible.
Man. I played Freedom Planet was the other thing I started.
Mm-hmm.
Which is started life as a cough, yeah. Which turned into someone's idea to make like a Sonic the Hedgehog fan project. But then he got to the point where it's like, you know what? Actually, I could make a Sonic-inspired game rather than a Sonic fan project. And so Freedom Planet came about after some communication with artists on DeviantArt. This sort of freeform thing came together. And the first thing that's apparently obvious is it's very Sonic in its look. Like the way the characters are designed, sort of big eyes, and the way they sort of run and the way they animate and stuff like that. And the whole look of the game very much captures that sort of aesthetic that Sega used during those years, I suppose. But the look of the game is more like, I wouldn't say it's like Genesis-y. It's like, I don't know, I want to say like Chaotix-y, so like 32X. There's obviously more going on.
I don't know, because the 32X had that started to go down the way of like the weird, where things look weirdly smooth.
Yeah, it wasn't
like
quite
too
like
many
that.
colours.
Yeah, it wasn't quite like that. It's like it's sort of Genesee in the sense of what the palette, I suppose, that they use, but there's just more going on than the Genesis
like
could
more
handle.
than 60-bit.
Yeah, I mean, people have been saying maybe it's like early Saturn sort of, I don't know, style, maybe
before they decided to make the Saturn 3D.
I guess, yeah. But it's like, it doesn't take you long of playing that game to realise, this is Sonic-esque in how it feels, but it's not really a Sonic game. In that, you don't just, it's not all about going fast, and there's some proper platforming to do, there's some sort of puzzling to do. Basic puzzling, like go through this section to push this button. you need to push this button, right? Go push this button. Or there's a push block here, you need to drop on a switch, you better do that. That kind of basic-y sort of stuff. But it's also different in the sense that you can't just jump to kill things. There actually has a sort of combat system, which is in some parts cool because it means they can do some fancier stuff with bosses. But it's also one of the game's downfalls because of the way other things react to your combat. Most things tend not to die in a single hit. For instance, a lot of things will take multiple knocks before they go down, but there's not a lot of concept of like hit stunning things. So where I am in the game, which is about 2/3 of the way through the campaign, playing as Lilac, the dragon, you sort of get to a point where there are enemies that are pretty much attacking fairly constantly and do enough damage to be irritating, but as you're hitting them, nothing is happening to them. So you sort of just punch them a bit and get shot whilst you're punching them.
Oh, right.
And there's not a great deal you can do about it. Which is quite irritating against the sort of just, everyday bad guys you're coming across. I think that possibly could have done with a bit of work or a bit of refinement. It makes it feel sort of more awkward than it needs to. And that extends to the boss fights, because the boss fights don't have the concept of hit stunning, which in some boss fights actually works pretty well because it sort of forces you to learn very strict patterns, otherwise you will die. And if you don't get your tactic right for how you're supposed to do that boss, then you will die, and it makes the boss fights difficult. And I would argue that those difficulty spikes are too big compared to the rest of the game, but it does make them kind of challenging, and they feel like what a boss fight should be in a weird way, like a climatic battle.
Right.
Climactic. Yeah, I said it again. Climactic.
It's all about clouds and shit.
Cloudy battle.
It's like a massive tornado. It's a climatic battle.
It's a cloudy battle. There's some like the bigger bosses are particularly like that because, and again, some of this stuff is again problematic because of the way the camera is quite zoomed in on the action. Stuff can quite easily come from off screen to hurt you. And you just don't have enough time to react because you might be inside a attack string, or you might be inside some kind of move that you just can't get out of fast enough because of the momentum of the way that it handles and stuff like that. And there are moments where that stuff works against it. I mean, they are all somewhat avoidable by learning how things react, I suppose. But it's not. It could use some refinement, is what I would say.
Okay.
I kind of like what they're going for, I think, more than I end up liking the game. It's like the visual style is real nice. The music, although sounding somewhat cheaply instrumented in places, like they used some bad trumpet VSTs or something, is very reminiscent of that era of games. The whole game itself is very reminiscent of games I felt like I grew up with, and that feels good. Doing some of that again. But it's a little, I don't know, clunkier and a bit rough around the edges. But I'm still having a good time with it. I've basically put in like 2 3-hour sessions on it, like just solid 3-hour sessions, because it does draw me in. Once I'm playing it, it's hard to stop playing it, despite how many times I've been frustrated with one particularly large green spiky boss.
Sounds like your sort of thing, anyway.
Yeah, sure. It is my sort of game. I just wish it was a little bit better than it is.
Yeah.
But it kind of... It's good to see a game like that actually just come out, I suppose. That isn't a shitty Sonic game. That isn't Sonic Boom.
Or Sonic 4.
Or Sonic 4, yeah. Yeah,
it's
Sonic
neat. 4. Anyway, never mind.
It's neat.
We got this. Neat. That's cool.
Yeah. And I guess, actually, stuff that we've sort of touched on before. I've played the new Mario Kart DLC as well.
Me too.
200cc is insane.
Yeah, I didn't try that. I did try all the other tracks. I did play
pretty difficult.
Yeah, tell me about it. I saw David was doing his best to get around the tracks. He was doing pretty well, but I mean,
some tracks I really don't know how you're supposed to do it. Like the Wario Stadium or whatever it is, whichever version of that is in the game. That's really, really hard.
Yeah, but it's good that because it kind of breaks the game, but it still adds an insane new level of craziness.
I like it. I think if there was like I don't know, 175cc, that would be nice.
Right.
Like 200 is possibly a little too far.
It's a bit much.
I like that it exists, but I think I would want to be eased into that way of having to play the game a bit more. You're like, because they're not wrong. The labeling says braking is essential, and they're not wrong. Braking is essential, but because it's such a new concept to the world of Mario Kart, really, that it's like this is taking some adjusting to, and I can't adjust fast enough. So perhaps I need a little bit of a softer intro to it.
I like the tracks.
The new tracks are pretty good.
I like the subway track. That was good. The trains and stuff. That was
There's some neat little Easter eggs in that track as well.
The theming of that is really nice. And of course, the multi-season Animal Crossing track is nice with the bells instead of, which is a bit subtler, admittedly, than the rupees in the Zelda track, but still, it's quite nice. Nice little touches and stuff, and the way that the fruit falls on the trees and becomes like mushrooms that you can give you speed boost and stuff. All that
another
stuff is cool.
track.
Yeah, Big Blue.
Good track.
Sure.
I mean, again, they're not really, I guess, going. I suppose the tracks aren't super amazing, in the same way they're not exactly being particularly innovative, I guess, with how they play. But there's nothing wrong with them.
I mean, they've got more detail around them than some of the, not
you could argue
highly detailed before, but the theming adds another level to it.
Definitely. I quite like the one that's basically like as you playing as toys. Cool.
It's very Micro Machines-esque or whatever.
Yeah.
Kind of cool.
There was a a picture going around the internet of I forget what the sort of the dog from Animal Crossing.
Isabel.
Yeah, there's her like doing a drift with a boost flying, and the flames coming out and stuff, and it says what it looks like to play Mario Kart 8 and 200cc, and then there's a picture of Hell Rider, whatever it's called, like next to it. It says what it feels like. Is it Hell Rider? What's he called? Skullface Man?
Yeah.
Nicolas Cage.
I was trying to think of it. I can't remember.
Hang on, it's on the shelf behind me that I still haven't watched. Or maybe it's on there.
It's got to be Hell something, right?
Is it here anymore even? Do I have that disc anymore? This is Ghost Rider.
Oh,
Ghost Rider.
That's right. Not Hell Rider. Might as well have been Hell Rider.
Hell Rider, yeah. So there's that, yeah. And I definitely think that I think you could buy Mewtwo on his own for like £3.50 as it turned out in the UK. That still feels maybe a little much, I don't know.
Possibly.
For Mewtwo. I'm going to shut up now because I feel my voice potentially about to go.
There we go. Gaming.
Gamage.
We know what Dan played because I saw it on Steam.
Did you? What was that?
Grand Theft Auto 5.
Yes. I didn't know I was online on Steam, but yes.
You didn't have to be online, you got achievements.
Oh, I'm getting achievements. Oh, okay. Yeah, I'm playing GTA 5.
You can't sneak that.
I can't hide. Yeah, I could try. I played GTA 5 on the PC, and it looks great, and it runs really well. I think because I have a really good graphics card, but like, you know how games guess the settings.
Yeah.
These days, I think whatever they guessed was really spot on.
It's been pretty good the last few times. I've just let it do its thing. That's
what I've done. I think this is the first time I've ever like just completely left it, because I tried changing things and I was like, whoa, okay, I didn't change anything, and this is running at 60 at 1440p, and it looks amazing. Let's try turning a couple of things up. Oh no, it's hitching up. Oh, okay, just go back. That's fine. They'll do. Whatever they chose, it was good. It looked like it was all high or very high, so I'll just leave it. And yeah, it looks amazing. Obviously, clearly, all the assets were designed for next generation consoles or PC from the get go. So I don't know how they managed to get that game running on 360, but yep, it looks great and it plays great too. It has really probably the best I've ever seen of going between a gamepad and mouse and keyboard controls totally seamlessly. So I literally, have my gamepad on a little cushion on my desk, and then whenever I need to shoot accurately, I just switch straight to mouse and keyboard with absolutely zero problems.
Is the cushion velvet?
I should get a velvet cushion. I don't know.
Yeah,
it's like
and a little lamp to highlight it.
Yeah, that would be good. Anyway, and and I haven't been bothering with the first-person mode. I thought I would give it a try, but there's too much car in the way. There's too much. There's no
There's too much realism.
Yeah, there's too much realism. There's no bumper cam or whatever. You have to be which makes sense, I suppose. You have to be in the car, and I'm sure that looks good, but it's not as easy to play. And even for the shooting, it's it pretty much with the mouse and keyboard, it pretty much plays like Max Payne, except with the slightly physicsy movement compared to Max Payne, I guess. But you can shoot the shit out of stuff. It feels pretty good. Yeah, it's GTA, and I really like it. I remember that I did read a couple of reviews and stuff, and I remember that, so the story is more fun at the start, and the missions are better earlier on, I think, in general. So, the heists are all good and stuff, but I feel like it's more fun in the beginning, so I've been really liking it and stuff, but I remember that, after a while, the story kind of gets to a point where you're doing stuff for these bad dudes, and every time you finish, they screw you over every time, and there's nothing you can do about it, and that's not much fun. And they also make you do horrible things like torture people and stuff, and it's this just sucks. Whereas earlier on, you're just doing stuff for yourselves and getting ahead, and it's all and meeting all the characters and stuff, and it's more fun. So, but who cares? Because you've got the whole world and stuff in super high detail now to muck around with once I'm done with the first few missions and stuff. I don't know.
There's some good setting comparison videos out there for this as well, telling you what each of the bloody options does, because it sounds like there's a lot. There's
a lot of options, but it looks freaking great. I think I've got a good setup because I've got a really new graphics card, and then I looked up the memory. I think I'm borderline on memory because it looks like the game takes 6 gigs, and I have 8 gigs. So
8 gigs will still get you by just fine.
Well, I can't remember at the end. I was just about to quit, and I got a warning from Windows saying your computer has run out of memory. So that's the first time I've ever seen that message.
I don't normally see those. I see the ones saying, I get the really annoying ones that happen all the time where Windows comes and says, I think your system's performing badly. Do you want to turn Aero off?
Oh, I fucking hate that.
You can't make those stop. I don't think there's a way of turning that off.
And what's more annoying is not only can you not turn it off, but it says specifically, remember and don't ask me this again, which it doesn't remember. And and there's no way around it.
It only remembers it for the duration of the program running. I think if you set don't do this right now, but without the don't remind me again, it will pop it up a little bit later while we're using this, in the same session.
Because I get that all the time. It's really annoying, and I googled it trying to find the answer, and then I found a not Stack Overflow, a super user or something, some Stack Exchange question about it from someone complaining about it, and that someone was Jeff Atwood, who is like a Microsoft. He is the creator of Stack Overflow, and he was asking how the fuck do you turn this off, and no one could give him an answer. So
I don't think I've ever seen that message.
It's very annoying. I get it almost every time I run a game of any kind of 3D. It pops out after I go into it and says.
I've had it more often with more modern stuff than I have older stuff. It's like the
well, it's a lot of times you just turn Aero off by default in older stuff just to be safe, because sometimes it doesn't like it very much on old things.
Well, I don't really tinker with that, really. I'd rather not have to set that up, If it doesn't like aero, fine, but just remember that. Like, that's what that option's for, surely.
That's not that. I mean, you can do it from like the settings on the executable or whatever, and just have it. But then you have to set it.
Yeah.
It's not like a pop-up.
Yeah, it's irritating. Windows should just deal with it, or not. If I tell it not to care, then don't care. Because the worst thing is about that message is it's more often than not wrong. It's like, no, my system's performing just fine, thanks.
It's totally wrong. Yeah. So that's a real pain. Anyway, GTA, and I played the Mario Kart stuff as well, and that's pretty much me. And we've come to the end of the podcast, and it's time for the end of the podcast, and there will be videos, probably Dirt Rally, but that might not be first, that might be weeks, who knows, but there's plenty of videos up already.
Just for you, Dan, I will probably put the Dirt Rally up there.
Hooray!
And once again, to get way ahead of ourselves, and we'll probably say this at least next podcast, if not the one after that, we did finish Final Fantasy VII, but that video is not due to go up for quite a long time.
Yeah,
right.
Got back.
Episode 33 is up.
First.
So check that one out. It's getting towards the end. But you've officially finished.
33? I think it might be 31.
I don't even remember. One of them.
Have you guys got a... are you going to just roll straight on?
Potentially.
We're thinking
We've
about
talked about
things
to do.
Or whether we need to get away from Final Fantasy for a bit.
Right.
Just,
a bit of a break. Yeah.
Go away and think about what we've done.
Well,
have a long, hard look at ourselves in the mirror.
Check out what they've
realise
done.
That we're staring at a picture of Cloud
on the Happy Salad YouTube channel, and join us again next time for another Saladcast.
Do that. Oh wait,
it's time for the end.
Ron forgot to stand up again.
You've got to stand up. Bye.
I got this, guys. It goes a little something like this.